Welcome to Susquehanna University's Build Your Bright Future virtual open house. We are coming to you today live from the Communications Department studio in Afflebaum Hall. Thank you for tuning in today. My name is Phil Betts, and I serve as the Director of Admission here at Susquehanna. I will be serving as your host today. We have 3 sessions lined up for you. First, we're going to have a panel of faculty members and staff from our Career Development Center. Following that panel, we'll have a panel of current students, and then conclude our open house with a presentation on applying for admission and for scholarships and financial aid. But before we get started with our first panel, Susquehanna's president, Dr. Jonathan Green, would like to offer his welcome from his home right here on campus. Jonathan.
Greetings from Susquehanna University. As a world and nation, we are at an existential crossroads. The pandemic, the Black Lives Matter movement, widespread economic and social uncertainty, and what bodes to be an especially contentious election year have presented us with remarkable uncertainty. The purpose of a liberal arts education is to seek meaning and direction among the turmoil of our world. This is what we do. Today I want to share some thoughts with you about why attending a residential liberal arts college is so important, and give you some perspectives on the state of higher education today. Then I will identify some of the elements that distinguish Susquehanna University, and lastly, but most importantly, try to convey to you what happens to students during their matriculation at SU. The American Liberal Arts College has its roots in ancient Greece. In the Greek Academy, students learned what was needed to be effective leaders in a democratic state. What was at first the educational foundation for free persons soon became recognized as the knowledge that truly makes us free, to be independent thinkers and actors. The United States is a nation conceived in intellectual idealism. The Founding Fathers were imperfect and flawed, but they recognized that for a new democratic republic to survive, and more importantly to evolve, we would need generations of ethical problem solvers, cogent communicators, and entrepreneurial leaders to successfully navigate our diverse, dynamic, and interdependent world. Therefore, many of the founders also established liberal arts colleges to develop deeply informed leaders capable of sustaining and adapting this experimental nation. What could be more important at this moment in our history? Investing in a college education has never made more sense than it does today. Of course, you know that, which is why you're here. The published price of tuition and fees has climbed steadily throughout our lifetimes. But at private institutions, financial aid budgets have grown significantly faster. The average out-of-pocket cost of tuition at Susquehanna after scholarships and grants is less now than it was 10 years ago, and that's not adjusted for inflation. We strive mightily, as do many of our sister institutions, to make a transformative education accessible to as many meritorious students as we can. In fact, last year after aid, on average, our students paid $5,700 less per year than they would have at Penn State. Student debt has become a fixture in the media and the political stage. It's important to understand that over 40% of student debt in the United States is for graduate school. Undergraduate student loans represent about 6% of all personal debt in the United States, and student borrowing to pay for college has actually dropped annually in each of the past 7 years. There have been many recent attempts by the Department of Education to report starting salaries by university and by major, but their data are incomplete and short-sighted. A recent study published by the Georgetown University Center on Education has shown that on average, graduates of liberal arts institutions have significantly higher lifetime earnings than other college graduates. They tend to trail in early compensation, but their ability to adapt and lead pays off in the mid and long term. Part of that differentiation has to do with the cultivation of soft skills, those abilities that define us as being human, interpersonal communication, problem solving, the ability to work in groups and across difference, and being able to lead compassionately. A recent Cengage study identified a significant decline of these skills in the emerging workforce, with the exception of graduates from liberal arts colleges. Deeply effective educational practices cultivate soft skills as whole cloth with content, and this is what we do. If you want to prepare for a life in which you can truly make a difference as a thoughtful and compassionate leader, A residential liberal arts college is right for you. We learn best in community. This is a living, learning community in which each of us challenges ourselves and each other, and in which we are all lifted up for meaningful lives of achievement, leadership, and service. How is Susquehanna different? Earlier, I mentioned the Georgetown report that showed liberal arts alumni significantly out-earning other college graduates. Another report from that same study placed Susquehanna among the top 8% of all colleges and universities in the nation for the highest return on investment. We were actually the top 8%. This is a remarkable statistic by itself, but it is all the more impressive when you recognize that we have one of the most economically diverse student bodies in the United States. We are not an elite institution that takes students from elite families and returns them to elite careers. The New York Times identified us as the 9th most economically diverse institution in the nation, and our students from all walks of life find themselves collectively among that top 10%. This is what we do, but it's not the most important thing we do. In 2015, Sean Seymour and Shane Lopez published Big Six College Experiences Linked to Life Preparedness. This was the product of an extensive research initiative between Gallup and Purdue University. The study identified 6 specific experiences during one's college education that are linked to strong engagement in work and to general happiness in adult life. They are, at least one professor made me excited about learning. My professor cared about me as a person. I had a mentor who encouraged me to pursue my goals and dreams. I worked on a project that took a semester or more to complete. I had an internship or job to apply what I was learning in the classroom. And I was extremely active in extracurricular activities and organizations. It's hard for me to believe, but only 3% of college graduates indicated that they strongly agreed to having had all 6 experiences. This list describes the typical educational experience of all of our students. Never has intercultural competence been more important. Our GO program is unique within higher education in its commitment to having every student meaningfully engage in a culture different from their own. Even with the shift to remote learning that we all experienced this spring, dozens and dozens of our students were able to complete international internships virtually. Our faculty stepped up, as they always do, to guarantee extraordinary opportunities for our students, because this is what we do. Earlier in the spring, I had the privilege to lead the discussion in a Confucianism class. I'm not an expert in Confucianism, but our topic was, what is a university and what are our respective responsibilities as members of this university community? I felt well prepared, and yet I was overwhelmed by our students and their thoughtfulness. At one point, I asked what their responsibilities were as members of this community. The first few responses were, be prepared for class, keep up with the readings and assignments, but quickly others added, helping to recruit new students. I asked why that was their responsibility, and they said, more talented students will continue to enrich our classroom discussions and our work outside of class. Then the responses became more rapid and humbling. There are so many deserving students who would benefit from being here. I need to be sure more people know how this place changes us. I asked them to explain, and one student said, I had no idea how much I would develop in such a short time. I never could have imagined how much my understanding of my place in the world would change and how deeply my values and priorities would take shape. She added that when she talks to her friends attending other institutions, that her experience is substantially different and better than theirs. I asked the group if anyone else felt that way, and all said yes. Then I asked if they could have recognized how important that development would be when they were making their college choice. A different student said, I couldn't begin to understand my capacity for growth until I dove headfirst into what the school has to offer and began to truly grow into myself. I trust that you will find the following presentations informative. For now, here are the main points to remember. Our world needs more liberal arts college graduates to provide the leadership we deserve. We cultivate the soft skills employers are seeking. The return on investment of a college degree has never been greater, the return on investment of a Susquehanna degree is significantly greater still. Unlike 97% of college students, Susquehanna students are immersed in all 6 of the best practices that lead to career engagement and happiness. We are the national leader in global and intercultural education, and for 162 years, Susquehanna supported extraordinary personal growth among its students. Isn't that what you're hoping to find?
Thank you very much, President Green. If you choose to attend Susquehanna, you will likely see Jonathan on campus throughout the year. He, like the majority of our students, also lives on our campus. Now it's time to welcome in our very first panelists. I'm going to have them introduce themselves and then go through some of the items we're hoping to discuss during this panel. I'm going to start off with our Dean of School Business, Matt Rosu.
Hi, I'm Matt Rosu. I'm Dean of the Sigmund Weiss School of Business here at Susquehanna University. I've been at Susquehanna University since 2004, and I'm also a professor of economics. And this fall, I am excited to teach game theory, which is an upper-level economics class looking at strategic interactions and the way to think about various problems.
Thank you, Matt. Let's go on over to Professor Kathy Straub.
Hi everyone, my name is Kathy Straub. I'm a professor and the department chair in the Department of Earth and Environmental Sciences at Susquehanna. I teach courses in meteorology, climate change, and this fall I am teaching a course in senior research. So we have 14 seniors and they will all be doing independent research projects, and the course involves helping them do that research as well as professional development skills for after they graduate.
All right, thanks, Kathy. And now let's go over to Professor Monica Prince.
Hi everyone, my name is Monica Prince. I'm an assistant professor of activist and performance writing in the Department of English and Creative Writing, which means I teach poetry. I usually teach poetry, intermediate and advanced in all levels, and I also oversee all of our seniors in our senior seminar course, which I'm teaching this fall. I'm also teaching an intermediate and advanced performance poetry class, so we get to do slam. I've been here for 4 years.
All right, thanks, Monica. And our final panelist, Michaeline Schumann.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Michaeline Schumann. I have the privilege of serving as the Assistant Provost and Director of the Career Development Center. I've been at Susquehanna for 6.5 years now, and like many of my staff members, we are also adjunct faculty. So this fall I'll be teaching a management class in the Sigmund Weiss School of Business. I've also had the good fortune of leading one of our Global Opportunities domestic programs and have traveled with students to the Navajo Nation for a service learning immersion experience. Thanks for joining us today.
All right, thank you, panelists. As you viewers out there can probably tell, we don't have a faculty representative from every academic department here on campus. We actually designed today's panel to give you a broad sense of academics at Susquehanna and the support that you'll receive to excel not only in your classes, but then post-graduation, how you'll achieve graduate success upon completion of your degree at Susquehanna University. Now, many of you submitted questions when you registered, and I want to thank you all very much for that. We will also be monitoring the comments for any questions that you might have during this panel. There are many of you out there, so we won't be able to get to every single question, but we hope that we'll be able to answer many of the ones that you and your fellow students have. So I'm going to get us started here with our very first question, and I'm going to ask Professor Straub to start us off here, and that's describe the faculty and student relationship, the professor-student advisee in the classroom type relationship. How is that distinct and unique here at Susquehanna?
Great, thanks, Phil. So first I'll talk about the advisor-advisee relationship. So as soon as you deposit at Susquehanna, as soon as you commit to attend Susquehanna, you are assigned an early academic advisor. I served as an early academic advisor this year for our incoming class of students, So I've actually already had Zoom meetings and email conversations with all of my incoming advisees. And that's been really helpful in terms of getting students, making sure they're in the right major, making sure they're in courses that they want to take, and serving as a sounding board for any kinds of questions they have. So the advising relationship starts really early, and it actually lasts until well after graduation. So with your academic advisor, it is primarily about academics, right? Because it's called an academic advisor. So thinking about your courses, what kinds of internships or summer experiences you might want to have, thinking about what career or graduate program you might want to pursue. You probably will also have your academic advisor as a professor, because you get an academic advisor who's in your department. So then the relationship deepens because you've had that person as a professor as well. And then we start thinking about when you apply for something, you need a letter of recommendation. So you've had that person for class and their advisor, you'll probably ask them for a recommendation. When you start thinking about what you want to do even after graduation, which I know is hard to think about right now, right, you will work with that advisor throughout that process as well. And then post-graduation, I still have students, I stay in contact with my advisees well after graduation as well. And in fact, in my senior research course that I will be teaching this semester, I'm going to Zoom many of them back in so they can talk to my current seniors about their own career paths, right? So this academic advising relationship is very long, from when you first deposit at Susquehanna all the way post-graduation.
Thanks, Kathy. You teased something that I'd like to ask next of Michaeline, and that's how you and your department, your office in the Career Development Center, help students to identify internships. When do students come to you? When do they do these internships? And where do they go?
Thanks so much, Bill. And I want to add on to what Professor Straub noted, that it is a very collaborative effort here at Susquehanna, and that students have access to the Career Development Center as soon as they deposit and choose to come to Susquehanna as well. So we have first-year students that haven't even moved in who've been in touch with our office this summer to explore major decision-making, to start to think about on-campus employment, to perhaps hone or build their first college-level resume. This year, we also launched a new partnership for all of our students to have access to LinkedIn Learning, which are some online learning modules, and we invited students to start building their professional social media profile on LinkedIn, and then to reach out to my team to get feedback on that. In terms of helping students find internships, practicums, summer opportunities such as research and fellowships that are a good fit for their skills and interests, it's really very collaborative. So in my office is an employer relations team that works with a large number of employers and graduate schools who are interested in pursuing our students. We have our faculty fellowship advisor who works with students all 4 years to think about experiences primarily over the summer until after graduation that are fully funded fellowship and research opportunities both domestically and abroad. We help educate students on how to identify opportunities that will allow them to explore their interests, and then also educate them on how to be a strong candidate for those opportunities. From the basics of how to write a cover letter and a resume to how to succeed on a Zoom interview, which is something not everybody has experience with, to how do you follow up. And then the third piece of that that's really unique about Susquehanna includes the relationships we have with our alumni. I was drawn to work here both because of the faculty collaborations with outcomes and student success after graduation, as well as the way in which our alumni engage at a very high level. So we primarily have over 50% of our on-campus employers, or folks who are seeking our students for internships and jobs, are alumni connected. They know what the Susquehanna education provides, and they want more of that in their organizations.
If I could add on just a bit to what Michaeline said. One example of the way the Career Development Center really came through for Susquehanna University students this year. As you know, when COVID hit, it caused massive disruptions, and many students had internships lined up before COVID hit, but some didn't, and some were planning to work jobs that fell through. But one thing where we were able to partner with the Career Development Center on was setting up remote internships for actually 44 of our rising juniors and seniors. So these students completed internships from their home, but these were actually with foreign companies. So it was in England or Singapore or Hong Kong or Spain. And all students got this completely free of charge along, and were able to earn 2 Susquehanna University credits by going through an internship reflection course with one of the members of the Career Development Center, Allie Grill.
Thank you, Matt and Michaeline. Monica, I'd like to hear from you, and then perhaps others as well, regarding the type of academic support that is provided to students in no matter what class they're taking, whether that comes from faculty or from a place like our career or our Center for Academic Success here on campus.
Absolutely. So when you come to Susquehanna, you probably feel like you're at the top of your class, and then maybe some of your courses are a little bit more difficult. I know when I came to college, I struggled in my science courses, but the benefit of Susquehanna is that we have a lot of support to make sure all of our students succeed regardless of what level they're at. We have our Center for Academic Success, which houses all kinds of services. There's services explicitly for first-year students, which focuses on making sure you build good study habits, that make sure that your advisors are checking in on you, that also makes sure that if your class schedule isn't allowing you to eat, they can help you figure that out. And additionally, we have our disability services, which allows students to file for accommodations to make sure if you need a test, if you need a note taker in class, if you need extra space or extra time to take a test. We also have tutoring available through all of our major science courses, and we also have tutoring for math and a writing center to make sure that all the writing, which happens in basically every single class, is at its highest level. We make sure that students are not floundering when they get here. Most of our students are extremely well adapted to the rigorous nature of a college education, but sometimes we need a little extra help. And the benefit of the Center for Academic Success is that the tutors stay with that particular student all the way through the course, and there are ways for you to engage with professors who will make sure that your tutor is giving you the exact information that you need.
Thanks, Monica. And Matt, I know in the School of Business, we have a distinct, unique class called Global Business Perspectives that is really designed to help first-year students. So if maybe, Matt, you can talk about that program for the School of Business, but then also if someone else wants to talk about those first-year perspectives courses a little bit more broadly.
Sure. So for those students who are interested in business, every first-year student comes into a class called Global Business Perspectives. The way this class is set up, all first-year students, so this year it's about 175, on Monday nights we'll meet together. Many times it'll be virtual, of course, this semester. But then on Wednesdays and Fridays, meet in smaller groups with their professors. It's 16 per class. In this, you learn about all of the different business majors and all of the different business paths that you can take. Actually, throughout the semester, we'd heard about our great alumni network. We have over 20 alumni coming to present in our virtual speaker series for the Sigmund Y School of Business this year to help students figure out what does it mean to be a brand manager? What can I do with a luxury brand marketing and management major? Do I want to pursue a CPA? What about a finance major? Kind of all of these different paths. But one really interesting feature, fantastic feature of the Global Business Perspectives class is you're put in teams of 4 to study a company, and by the end of the semester you are presenting, but you're actually not presenting to faculty, you're presenting to business professionals. This is a 20 to 25 minute fully formal presentation. You do not have notes. You will be working very hard to get this together. There's a bit of stress involved, of course, but we're here to help support you, and everybody gets through it. But by the time you reach the end of your first semester, you will have pulled something off you didn't think you could pull off, and you won't be afraid of a college presentation for the rest of your college career. Nerves, yes, nerves are normal. You should have nerves. But you will know you can pull it off. And that happens basically 3 months into your college career. So for every business student, this is it's a pretty unique class that is a great way to start your career.
Thanks, Matt. Anything additional there on perspectives courses, how they work more broadly, how they'd work for students outside of the School of Business?
I can talk about that, Phil. So for students who are not in the School of Business, in the School of Arts and Sciences, all incoming students are placed into a perspectives course, which has a maximum of 16 students. So it's small, it's very seminar-based. And students in this course are typically, but not always, grouped by major. So for example, in my department, we put all of the Earth and Environmental Sciences and Environmental Studies students and some ecology students into one section of this course. And for us, the course is actually taught by our sustainability coordinator, and he teaches it about our food system. Where does our food come from? So Perspectives is partially a topical course about something that the instructor and the students are interested in, and it's partially a course to get students acclimated to living and studying at Susquehanna. So we have content like study skills, visiting the Center for Academic Success, like Monica just referred to, the Career Development Center, what is the GO program, the Counseling Center, places like that. So it's really a place to get everybody kind of on the same page as to what the resources available at Susquehanna are, but then there's also additional academic content. And I also want to make sure to stress that if you don't come in with a major already picked out, that's absolutely okay. And we actually have special perspective sections for students who don't have their major picked out yet. And some of the things that they do in that section of perspectives is to think about what kinds of majors they are interested in pursuing throughout their career. And although you don't have to declare your major that first semester, it gives people a little bit more clarity about what the options are.
Thank you, Kathy. And you just teased their GO a little bit. So Michaeline, I'd like to go with you to explain what does GO stand for, and then the options that students have to satisfy this very distinct requirement here at Susquehanna.
Thanks, Phil. I think one of the most unique details of distinction about Susquehanna University is our Global Opportunities Program. You heard President Green mention it, and it is something that sets us apart. As a member of the Career Development Center, we're really proud that all of our students have to have a Global Opportunities commitment, because we know from employers that having that sense of intercultural fluency and being able to relate well to others is in high demand right now in the world of work. So our GO program gives students the option to do what we traditionally think of as study away or study abroad by spending a full semester away. And you take your whole course load in another campus, you spend anywhere from 3 to 6 months in another place, and you come back with your traditional course load completed. I think roughly 30% of our students complete the GO requirement through that, and we call it GO Long on campus because you're away for the whole semester. The most popular program is what we call our Go Short program. Those are faculty-led study tours where students choose a program that they're most interested in, and many of them are aligned with academic departments. Others are aligned with interests outside of the classroom. So we have a number that are based around service and service learning. And students will travel with the faculty member and roughly anywhere from 10 to 20 of their peers and spend 2 to perhaps 4 weeks learning and immersed in a culture very different than their own. Some of those involve language exchange, some of those involve homestays. They really run the spectrum of opportunities. The third experience that the fewest number of students pursue, but frequently involves something really unique and special, and the students that do Go Your Way choose the program that they want to participate in. So it's not one of the faculty-led opportunities or a semester abroad. It can be something that they do over winter break, over summer break. Sometimes students even can complete that program at a smaller break, depending on what they choose to do. And like all of our programs, you can do it abroad or do it here in the United States as well as a domestic program. I have the pleasure of working with students after they come back because our Go program has a pre-departure class to prepare students for the experience and to reflect on what their learning goals are. And then all of the students come back to campus and have a reflection class. And I get to come into those classes to help students specifically think about what their Go experience means to them in terms of what's next for them. If they're going on to enter the world of work or going on to graduate school, how do they want to share that experience on their resume or in a personal statement or in an interview situation? So I get to hear from students who've done Go Your Way, in very unique ways. We've had students in our ROTC program who've earned a fellowship and done their Go immersed in an Army program in another country. This past year, I worked with a student who completed the Go requirement by being embedded in an Amish community for 2 weeks over winter break. And so he shared in the class about living in a farm home with no electricity, no heat other than fireplaces and coal-fed fireplaces, which was really a challenge for him. It would be a challenge for me too, in central Pennsylvania. So our Go programs is a distinguishing characteristic that employers are aware of and want to know more about, because students come back having such unique experiences. And it's not just about that intercultural communication and the global fluency. Sometimes it's about the other career readiness competencies that are in high demand, problem-solving skills. Students come back and share how they had to navigate transportation in another country, language. Maybe they lost their passport somewhere along the way and had to navigate that process. So the Go program allows students to hone and develop skills that are in high demand, and it is something that is so unique and special that it's just, I think, one of the best things about our education. I hope that answers all the questions you were thinking about.
Yes, that's great. And Matt, the School of Business has a few interesting programs. The London program, and then also the guaranteed international internships. If you could maybe describe and elaborate what those programs are like, some stories of students' successes and experiences there.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Sigmund Weiss School of Business since the fall of 1995 has actually led a semester abroad in London, where it's usually from about 18 to 24 students will accompany a Susquehanna University faculty member to live, study, and actually intern in London for a semester. It's a fantastic program if you're interested in study abroad. I mean, I couldn't recommend it highly enough, although it's not the only opportunity we have for internships within the School of Business. In January, we became the first and only business school in the world to guarantee you the opportunity to intern in a foreign country. So an international internship. Say guarantee, right? Lawyers were involved. There's terms and conditions on the website if you want to go look at that. But in the past year, we have had students who have not just studied abroad, but literally worked as an intern in England, Spain, Germany, New Zealand, Australia, Singapore, Ireland, South Korea. There are other countries. There are actually so many that I don't know the full list. But if you are interested in immersing yourself in a culture through work, which I could not recommend highly enough, we can give that to you. It will be a fantastic experience. And then when you go to apply for a job, college graduates simply don't have international work experience. It's something that doesn't happen hardly anywhere. You will stand head and shoulders above others who are applying for similar jobs. It will really stand out when you go to interview and when you apply for jobs.
Thanks. We've had some questions now coming in online, and I'd like to start with one regarding research that we had. And it's a kind of a bit of a two-parter, and one, maybe Professor Straub, if you can take this one first, of what is research like here on campus during the year, over the summers? What opportunities do students have? When do they have them? And then there's a second part that you and maybe some others can talk about, which is the senior capstone. What are some of those cumulative senior projects look like?
Okay, great. So in terms of research on campus, I can speak to that from the perspective of all of the science departments. So in some of our science departments, like Earth and Environmental Sciences, Ecology, Biology, and Chemistry, an independent research project during senior year is actually required as part of the degree. Now it is supervised and it's mentored, so there's no reason to be worried about it, but it is something that we require. And that leads to the part B of the question about capstone. So every major on campus has a capstone experience. In the sciences, this research is the capstone. But you don't have to wait until you're a senior to actually start doing research. You can sign up to work with a research lab starting in your first year if you would like. You can also work on campus during the summers. So this past summer, of course, was a little bit of a challenge to have students working on campus, but we were actually able to have some students working in socially distant and safe ways in the science labs on campus and also out in the field collecting field data. So in the sciences, we probably typically, in a typical summer, have 25 or 30 students who stay on campus and work with professors during the summer. It's really nice because it's more relaxed. All you're doing is working on research. We pay you and you get a free place to live in our 18th Street Commons dorms. And you learn a lot of research techniques. So in the sciences, part of what students need to learn is how to use different pieces of equipment, right? We have a lot of really fancy pieces of equipment in the science building. If you ever get a chance to tour, you can take a look at those. And students we don't have different equipment that faculty use and that students use. Everybody uses everything. So students are really able to just immerse themselves and get experience using this equipment, being out in the field, in chemistry, working in the lab, in biology and ecology, again, working in the field and in the lab, maybe both. So there's lots of opportunities to do research. And like I said, in the sciences, the capstone tends to be this year-long research project, which, like Michaeline was saying, when you go to apply for a job or for graduate school, having this go experience provides something that you can really talk about that really distinguishes you. This year-long research experience is another aspect of that, right? So you walk away from Susquehanna having experience designing and implementing your very own research project. It's just yours. You do presentations about it, you create a scientific poster, we send students to conferences to present their research. So in the end, they're very confident and they're very able to move forward in whatever pathway they choose. Other departments that are the non-science departments also have capstone experiences. Some of them are research-based, and some of them, like our environmental studies program, is actually a community project. So our environmental studies students do their research capstone by actually immersing themselves in the Susquehanna community and thinking about how the Selinsgrove community around Susquehanna is resilient. So we think about things like economic resilience, social resilience, environmental resilience. So that's a lot more project and community based, but it is also a capstone project.
Thanks, Kathy.
I know that in the English and creative writing department and other forms of humanities, our capstone projects are not necessarily year-long projects, but they are more like presentations. In the creative writing department, we require our students to complete a chapbook of all of their best work over the last 4 years. Additionally, they have to give a public reading. This past semester, our readings were a little different, but they were all recorded and presented to the community, and how we prep those students for it is in a designated course exclusively for the seniors. And I like this course. I get to teach all the seniors in my department because it allows us to reflect on what your work was when you first got to Susquehanna and how your work has changed. And that sort of reflective process I think is really important for liberal arts education because it requires this understanding of who you were before you got here, all the things that have happened to you since you've been here, and who you want to be once you leave. And that reflective process is a big part of the capstone courses in all of our classes because it emphasizes who you want to be after you leave. And I think that's an important way of thinking about how liberal arts changes our students once they leave.
All right, thank you. Another question that we had come in is, what is job recruiting like, maybe here on campus and outside of campus, for both the School of Business and for the School of Arts and Sciences? So maybe, Michaeline, if you could talk highlight our breakthrough program to start with, and then some of the other ways in which we connect our students with employers.
Certainly. And I think one thing to start with, and it circles back to some of the conversation we've already had about internships and similar experiences, we know nationally 55% of college graduates complete one or more internships or research experiences before graduation. We're really proud that here at Susquehanna, it's always above 90% for every graduating class. So the vast majority of our students complete at least one, and many complete more than one of those outside of classroom experiences that are in high demand right now in the world of work or for graduate school. Professor Straub mentioned that summer research is one way for students to gain that experience here on campus. and that there are usually 25 or 30 science students staying here. Roughly 1/3 of our students will choose to spend a summer here on campus in Selinsgrove doing research, doing an internship in the community, or being involved in community-based research projects. We use our breakthrough programming to help connect students to alumni-connected opportunities in a similar fashion. So traditionally what that looks like here is that in the fall semester, students sign up to spend a day away from campus to network with a particular alum at a particular organization in a major metropolitan area. So we traditionally always visit New York City and then either Philadelphia or DC. These trips, which we call the Breakthrough Career Treks, are open to every student all 4 years. And many students participate them in at least 2 or 3 years. And that allows students to spend half a day immersed in a workplace. So this past year, for example, I supervised a group of students at JP Morgan Chase in New York City. I was with a group of students 2 falls ago in Washington, D.C. at the National Institute of Health, where we have an alum working on, she works at the FDA with a tobacco program. One fall I spent the day at Google in New York City learning about what our alums do, and then our alums bring in talent acquisition staff, and our students hear specifically what they can do to be a good candidate for those programs. Not every student wants to give up a day of classes and their on-campus activities, so in the spring semester we host a breakthrough conference where we bring 100 to 120 alumni back for a 2-day event, a Friday and Saturday, that involves a career expo, so alums who work at organizations and can represent their organizations at our career fair will set up a little booth and talk to students about internships and jobs. And the second day is a traditional conference-style event where students can choose which panels to attend throughout the day. And for both of those programs where we travel with students or bring alumni back, there are times built in over meals and at the end of the day to network informally and to get to know people who perhaps were in your major when they were here or participated in the same team. This year, of course, we've had to look at more virtual models, so we've already started them over the summer with some virtual career panels. We will be continuing that into the fall and then hope to be able to revisit our travel experiences with the career treks in the spring semester.
Thank you, Michaeline. Anything else to add there around postgraduate help, either for graduate schools, jobs, that any of you would like to jump in with?
I mean, I can
Go ahead,
talk.
Matt.
Unless Matt wants to talk.
It's on you, Monica.
Okay. I like Michaeline mentioned, over 90% of our students do complete internships before their graduation. In the creative writing department, it's a requirement. Every student must complete an internship or a practicum. And internships and practicums are a little different. They're not both the same thing, but the way that practicums work is that you are on campus, participating in something that benefits the campus in some way. So we film all of our major artist series, and so you might be working behind the scenes with the communications department to film and broadcast those particular series. Additionally, you could work as a student worker in any of the offices on campus. We rely on our student workers to help faculty handle copies and also handle other major events like organizing our reading series and other things like that. And so I think that one of the benefits of completing those things on campus is it helps with students who just really want to immerse themselves in the Susquehanna community and really want to stay here and put all their energy into the university. And then it also prepares them for when they're ready to do that real world experience, that they already have all of this experience at college. One of the things we teach, and I think Michaeline can back me up on this, one of the things we teach in our departments is that like all the things you do in college count when you go to apply for jobs. I have so many students who are like, oh yeah, I worked on a magazine for 3 years and I was an editor and I ran all the acquisitions and I handled a bunch of staff, but like that doesn't really matter when I'm applying for an editor position. And it says, yes, that absolutely counts. And I think that that's the benefit of these practicums and these internships is that you're working on campus doing the thing you could potentially be doing after you graduate.
I'll add a little bit to both what Michaeline and Monica said, and just to reiterate how amazing the alumni are at Susquehanna University. I mean, Michaeline mentioned it's 120 people come back for the breakthrough in the spring, So that's a Friday and Saturday. So these are individuals who they're taking their vacation days to come and meet and help you. They want nothing more than to see your success. One tip I would have for you, hopefully you come to Susquehanna, but wherever you go, when you have these opportunities, start to get to know alumni in your first year. When they come to campus, go introduce yourself, send a follow-up email. Do this several times. By the time you're a junior, you'll know 15 or 20 alumni, and they'll think of you almost like a friend. And then it is a world easier for you to get advice about, what do you think about, where should I look for an internship or a job? And they will be your biggest advocates. And we see that often here at Susquehanna University, where alumni really fight to help get you a great job.
Matt, I think this might be a good time to tease your upcoming SU alumni series that will be happening this fall that will actually be open to prospective students. You want to talk a little bit about the types of folks you have coming in to speak to students here at Susquehanna?
Yeah, absolutely. We often have speakers come to campus. One way we're pivoting with COVID is we're restricting guests. We plan to be back on campus, but naturally to help prevent spreads, we are restricting guests to campus. So we have set up a virtual speaker series for the Sigmund Weiss School of Business. There are over 20 presentations scheduled with almost 30 alumni for the fall semester on all areas within business. We have 8 majors within the business school, at least 2 speakers to every single kind of major area. And these are speakers from some of the most prestigious companies in the world that you could think of. You know, the JP Morgans, the Goldman Sachs, the Apples, all designed, it's a way for you to interact with our alumni, to learn from them. And once again, even though it's in a virtual environment, it is a chance for our current students and you as a prospective student, and hopefully a future Riverhawk, to be able to interact with some of the amazing alumni who are giving their time to help out our students.
Thank you. We had another question, a new question come in regarding public safety and campus safety here. Someone speak to measures, things that are taken to ensure students' safety while they're both here on campus or abroad through programs like our GO program.
I'm happy to start, and then whoever else wants to jump in. I'm a member of the Selinsgrove community. I live really close to campus and frequently either walk or ride my bike to campus, and I'm on campus in the evening and weekends as well. Public safety here is an important part of our student life department and works really closely to engage with students in a positive way, while also providing a safe environment for all of us. Some of the things that I think are unique about our campus is that we do use cameras on campus to track areas of concern, so parking lots and areas perhaps where there's a lot of students traveling in the evening or early morning hours. Our public safety staff patrol in cars, on bikes, and on foot all around campus. They provide services to students such as rides. So if a student is in the library until midnight perhaps and doesn't have anyone to walk home with, they can call public safety and get a ride back to their residence hall very safely. Public safety offers a lot of services like that, and I find them to be a helpful partner. I mean, they're also the office that is open 24 hours a day. So if I'm on campus and I notice a light out, for example, and in the evening our facilities department's not open, but I can call public safety and they can call in the facility staff member to get the light bulb changed at night. So I find them to be an important partner for our engagement as well as our well-being here on campus. They have really strong relationships with local law enforcement as well. So if students have issues of concern in the greater community, they can be a strong partner to help address those concerns as well.
Monica, were you going to add something additional?
Oh, I was just going to note
cover it.
that Of course. I mean, I think she got most of it. One of the benefits of having a relationship with public safety is that if students do have a concern and they want public safety to be present or they want to have a conversation with public safety, they're absolutely welcome to attend student meetings. We have public safety go to a lot of our major events where we're inviting people who are not part of the Susquehanna community but are part of the larger community around Susquehanna on campus to make sure that like nothing bad happens, basically, which I really appreciate, especially when we have, because we're a liberal arts college, we have all types of speakers who come to campus, and now they'll be virtual for the fall, but all types of speakers come, and sometimes the benefit of this education is that we don't all agree, and so public safety is essentially there not necessarily to police the conversation, but to just make people feel a little bit safer if the conversation turns a little more physical, and I do appreciate their presence on campus for that.
So I want to say myself a few things, but I want to come back to something you just said, Monica, about differing opinions, because that is another question we had come in at the point of registration. But one of the really awesome things that we have here is text alert system. So students are automatically opted in when they arrive here that you can get alerted to any type of threat that there might be to campus, and those could be natural disaster related, weather related, or external threats. And parents can actually opt into that as well once students register. And as I said, I wanted to get back to the differing opinions. There was a question that we had from a student when they registered of how are differing opinions accepted on campus, both outside and in the classroom. So maybe how do discussions work in class so that all students feel comfortable contributing to that learning environment? You want to kick us off, Monica?
Yeah, sorry, I have all the thoughts. So in my classes, especially my writing and thinking course, which is a course that all first years are required to take, it's about writing essays and learning to think critically. But in all of my syllabi, I have a little caveat that explains that because we are a liberal arts college, we welcome all forms of differing opinions and different belief systems. And what that means is that we have to handle things that we don't all agree with respect and maturity. And so I make students say this part of my syllabus out loud, and we all have to agree to it, essentially because I don't want the classroom to become an unsafe environment. So when we have difficult conversations, which in my writing and thinking class comes up more often than in my poetry classes, we have these moments where I encourage students to speak as freely as possible without being offensive. And so we kind of decide as a class what offensive looks like. Is it name calling? Is it cursing? Is it insults? And if we accept like these things are things that are unacceptable in our classroom, then we're able to have a conversation. We don't all have to agree about the same thing. The idea is just that we can hear different perspectives without it becoming a serious problem that makes people don't want to talk to each other. I remember having experiences like that in high school where I stopped talking to people when they disagreed with me, and being in a college environment allowed me to stop doing that. And so instead of shutting everyone down if you don't agree, we have these moments where we kind of just walk each other through our thought processes to better understand. One of the biggest things that I emphasize in my classroom is that we're allowed to disagree, but the difference is like we have to recognize that we all are coming from different perspectives, different socioeconomic standards, different backgrounds, different countries, different languages, and it's important that we see all each other as human beings and therefore all capable of harm and capable of great compassion and great empathy. And having those conversations with students early in the semester and constantly having those conversations with every single class that we teach, and I think this is something we all do on campus, emphasizes the inclusive teaching environment we're trying to implement as a standard, which is making sure that students not only are exceeding academically, but are also exceeding by feeling that they belong here and that they're safe here. And if any student doesn't feel that way, the benefit is that faculty are completely open to talking to students about their differing perspectives, how they felt about something. If something felt wrong in the classroom, let's talk about it. How can we change the energy here? How can we make sure that in the future this doesn't happen? One of the benefits of being here is that we make mistakes. And instead of believing that all mistakes are a chance for complete disaster, they're an opportunity for us to all learn something new.
I don't mind, if I could just add on one thing. I think our students are really fantastic in general on respecting differences and differences of opinion. And one example I would like to give just from a couple of years ago, The college Republicans and college Democrats each brought in a speaker in the spring semester. Of course, the college Republicans, it was more on the right, and the college Democrats, it was more on the left. But they actually co-sponsored each other's talk. And they made it quite clear, look, we don't agree with what this person is saying, right? This is different. But in order to foster dialogue, we're going to co-sponsor each other's event with the idea of understanding each other's opinions a little bit better. And while they might disagree with the speaker, thought the speaker certainly should be coming to present to campus.
And we had some questions regarding class size and student-faculty ratio. And I'll just highlight here that our average is 19. Vast majority of our classes are less than 30. And a student-to-faculty ratio is 13:1. And many of those things that Monica just discussed happen because of those small class sizes. I want to talk about undecided students. And normally at an open house, I'd ask students to raise their hand if they're not quite sure about their major. But how do we work with students who come in and say, I'm not quite sure what I want to major in necessarily? How do we guide them through their four-year journey at Susquehanna? Kathy, or Monica, do you want to start? And then maybe over to
Sure.
Kathy?
Absolutely. So undecided students are great. I'm a big proponent of coming in not knowing what you're doing because college is all about exploration. And so when students come in undeclared, you still get an advisor. They still get an advisor, and that advisor just kind of talks them through the central curriculum. And the central curriculum is something that's very important to Susquehanna. It's outside of your major curriculum, which are all the classes you'll take when you declare a major. The central curriculum essentially focuses on what at other universities it might be called general education, it might be called the core curriculum, but essentially it's a series of courses that no student satisfies in the same way. Aside from taking writing and thinking, which is a writing intensive course that's required for all students, all the students will take analytical thought, which isn't just about math. You could take it by taking statistics, or you could take a symbolic logic class, which shows up in philosophy. Or there's historical perspectives, and there are tons of history courses that satisfy that. And not even just history, they show up in other departments as well. There's scientific explorations, I believe, and writing intensive courses, team intensive courses, these other types of courses that emphasize different aspects of the liberal arts education that we want you to have a handle on, even additionally to your major courses. And if you're undecided, you get to take a bunch of fun classes in different departments, and they satisfy the central curriculum. You can take a course on astronomy. You can take a course on business management. You can take one that focuses on the history of Spain in the 1930s. All these different courses that satisfy the central curriculum, and they might help you find the major you want to pursue. I taught a thought course 2 years ago, and I had a physics/computer science double major in that course. And because of that class, I allowed her to do all kinds of weird stuff with performance and writing, and by the end of that semester, she actually dropped her physics major and picked up creative writing as her major. And that student wasn't undeclared, and that's one of the benefits. You get to muddle your way through a bunch of different cool classes, and that helps you find what you're passionate about.
Maybe I'll talk a little bit about, instead of just undecided at the beginning, but what if you start and you're in a major that you actually decide maybe you are no longer interested in pursuing? What is that process like? So if you decide that you want to change majors or add a second major, in very rare cases a third major, or a minor or double minors, you would start by talking to your academic advisor. And that person has a good handle, all the faculty have a really good handle on all of the different majors across campus. And one of our systems that you can go into once you're a student, you can run this program that's called a degree audit. So it shows you, it's like checking boxes. What do you have left to do in your degree? But one function you can do is say, hey, I want to change my major. What courses that I've already taken might actually apply to this new major, and then what do I have left? So that really helps you and your advisor sit down and think about all the different possibilities. If you really do want to graduate in 4 years and say you only have 2 left, you can sit down and think about what you want to do. And in my department, Earth and Environmental Sciences and Environmental Studies, we tend to be a net importer of majors. So we definitely gain more majors along the way than we lose to other majors. So I've worked with a ton of students who come from different departments. I have students coming from the humanities. I had a Spanish education major who decided he wanted to be environmental studies. I have people coming from the business school. I even had someone come to me as late as the middle of junior year, and we actually finished him in 4 years in the environmental studies major. So in a lot of majors, there still is a lot of flexibility in terms of changing your mind along the way or adding or subtracting things as you go.
And
Can I
I'll
jump
add
in on that?
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Michaeline.
Thanks, Phil. I just want to reassure all the families and students that being unsure about your major is pretty typical. We know nationally, roughly 70% of all college students do change their major or might come in undeclared or shift gears. Here at Susquehanna, anywhere from 15 to 20% of our first years come in still deciding on a major, and 53% of our students will change majors, like Dr. Straub and Monica Prince were talking about. One of the things we do in the Career Development Center is help students navigate it from the career perspective. So we offer free assessments like the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, the Holland Code, just a lot of tools. We have one that's called the Card Sort to help students think about what they want to do, because then we can say, well, you're identifying careers in this area of industry. Here are all the majors that would allow you to gain skills that are in high demand right now for those industries. We also reassure students that any major you pick here at Susquehanna will prepare you for a lifetime of success because of our central curriculum requirements. We know that today's students will change jobs at a much higher rate than their parents or grandparents did. And the Department of Labor suggests right now that today's college students will have anywhere from 12 to 17 professional jobs after college and have anywhere from 5 to 7 career shifts. So by taking that central curriculum, by finding a major and maybe a minor that is a good fit for your skills and interest, you're not only gaining expertise in a discipline, but you're gaining skills that are what we call transferable skills. So again, taking some assessments in our office, working with your academic advisor, and being open-minded to perhaps exploring a field that you didn't even know existed until you went to college will help you find the right academic home for you and prepare you for success with life after college.
Thanks. I like to joke that usually undecided is either our most popular major for incoming students or one of our top 5 most popular majors of incoming students. And to Kathy's point there about the student who switched, in their junior year, the close advising that students get really help to make that happen, and know that 98% of the students who graduate do so in 4 years or less. So we're coming up short on our time here, and I was so glad a prospective student asked this question because it's one of my favorites, and that is, why do each of you choose to work and teach here at Susquehanna University? I'll let you fight over who gets to go first on that one.
I think Matt should go first.
Matt's been tagged,
Sure.
virtually
I've been
tagged.
That's good. That's good. I feel like we're part of a community where everybody is committed to helping students lead lives of achievement, leadership, and service, which is what Susquehanna's mission is. The individuals you've seen today, there could have been 100 others chosen instead of the 4 of us that are all. Everybody's working towards this goal. There's a passion here for helping you grow when you come here, giving you a great experience. We want to have you here. We'll love you when you're here. We only want you here for 4 years, and then we want you to go, and you'll be a part of the alumni community. But I think there's a shared sense of a mission to serve our students.
This is the best job I've ever had. As one of those people who switched careers a bunch of times, this is the best job I've ever had. I teach the best students on the planet, like fight me. I teach the best students on the planet. Susquehanna students are incredible. They are astounding and resilient and caring and compassionate, and every year we get better students, and I would never want to teach anywhere else. Best place ever.
I think I forgot to say at the very beginning how long I've been here, but I think I'm actually the senior person on this panel. I've been here since 2002. And what I love about Susquehanna is the ways in which I am able to interact with students in the classroom and also outside the classroom. So one thing that I do, in addition to being a faculty member, is that I am the director of our Center for Environmental Education and Research, or CEER. And so I oversee all of our sustainability initiatives on campus. I also oversee our Freshwater Research Institute, or FRI, that works on streams and stream health. And working at Susquehanna, I have been able to, like in my own personal professional journey, I have been able to pursue things that I think I might not have been able to at a bigger school or, a state school, something like that. I feel like we have a ton of academic freedom here at Susquehanna to design our programs. I designed the environmental studies major with a group of faculty on campus. And on a personal level, just a quick story. So when I came here in 2002, my husband and I both came here straight out of graduate school. So this is my one and only job post-PhD. We actually started in a job share position. So we have 2 children who are now 17 and 14. So for the last 17 years, we have shared one faculty position. So we have both been able to have a career and raise our children at home. And I think that just really speaks to the way that Susquehanna treats its employees, as whole people, and the way that we treat our students as whole people too. As faculty members, it's not just about our interactions with students in the classroom, but we are interested in interacting with them outside of the classroom and really throughout their whole lives.
And I guess I get to wrap up by sharing the reason why I came to Susquehanna. This is the 5th university I've worked at, and I knew because of my own undergraduate experience at a small private liberal arts school that was the best fit for my career as well. However, having worked at another institution during the last recession, where I struggled to collaborate with faculty on helping prepare students for postgraduate lives in the career world, that's how I look at everything, right? I was struck when I was job searching at how faculty here are all about that return on investment, or as I like to say, the return on education. From the very beginning of our careers here, our faculty are working with students to think about why their classes matter in the real world. Whether that be doing research or community-based engagement projects, we're really thinking about experiential education. So it's putting into practice what you're learning in the classroom with the eye on the prize being success after college. And I think that was the thing that drew me to Susquehanna and that keeps me here and keeps me very satisfied here, because I partner with faculty every single day and with our alums, of course, to help ensure that students are getting the best return on their education.
Well, I want to thank our panelists, as this will conclude our first panel of the day. And so thank you very much, Michaeline, Monica, Kathy, and Matt, for being with us here this afternoon. We're going to transition here to our next panel, which is we'll have 4 current students here. But before we do, we have a short video that's been directed and produced by a current student, Alec Wishuta, who will actually also be sitting on the student panel. So I hope you enjoy that. We'll be back real soon with the next panel. Thanks.
I chose Susquehanna University because as a first generation college student, the whole college search process was
I have to take a picture of my view here
when I
so I
visited
can.
Susquehanna for the administrative I felt at home. I could see myself like sitting on that bench studying, and I was like, this is my new home.
I chose to go to Susquehanna University because I was actually drastically undeclared and I had no idea what I wanted my major to be or what my career path was going to.
Oh, we're very worried we're not on mute. So Matt and I are like just, we've been super quiet.
Advisors always told me that it's okay that you're undeclared. It's actually a great opportunity to explore and kind of see what you're interested in. So when I felt that Susquehanna treats undeclared students as your own major, they gave me guided directions on how I was going to end up declaring one. They gave me a timeline, and it was never a scary process for me, and I can confidently say to all the undeclared students that you will be completely fine, you will figure it out, and it will all fall into place.
I chose Susquehanna University because of a combination of everything that I wanted in college. I wanted a really strong education department. As a future elementary school teacher, it was important that I got into the classroom for observations early, and Susquehanna has you in the first 7 weeks of your first year at Susquehanna, which is awesome. Also, I get to continue the 2 sports that I loved in high school. I get to play soccer and swim at Susquehanna at a really competitive level.
I chose Susquehanna University because the connections with the professors was really important to me. Even before I committed to coming to Susquehanna, I had professors who were working really hard to connect me with students that they currently had that they thought would help benefit me, and I just thought that that was really meaningful and showed me what it would be like when I was actually a student there as well.
I chose Susquehanna University because the moment I stepped out of the car on campus to do my tour of Susquehanna, it felt like home. It has a real community feeling whenever you walk across campus. With that, for me personally, the AACSB accreditation of the business school really stood out for me because that's an important part of my specific education and me professionally moving forward.
I chose Susquehanna University because from the moment I stepped on campus, it felt like home. Everybody was so nice, and I fell in love with the creative writing department from the very beginning. I really couldn't imagine myself going anywhere else.
The reason I chose Susquehanna University was because of its strong communications department. I'm able to play basketball there, and when I visited, it just felt like home.
I chose to come to Susquehanna because I was fortunate enough to participate in one of the summer programs on campus, the Choral Institute. I did that twice before I actually came to SU, and it was just a really nice opportunity to meet some of the faculty and work with them. I also got to meet and work with some of the students as well, and I just got to see how nice of a community there is on campus, and that's part of what I love so much about it now that I'm actually a student here.
So my mom is actually a Susquehanna alumni. And I've been there a couple times growing up as a kid, and it was my dream school because I wanted to be just like my mom. But I wasn't actually sure if I was going to get to go. And then my senior year of high school, when I was applying to a bunch of schools, Susquehanna made it on my list, and I visited a couple times and realized I loved it, and I just loved the atmosphere there, and I could really see myself having that as a home for 4 years. So I ended up choosing Susquehanna, and I've loved my decision every day since.
Hi, welcome to Susquehanna. My name's Tyler and I'm a junior.
And my name's Abby and I'm a senior. We can't wait to share our campus with you.
Let's go!
This is the Blauwise Library. It's a great place to come study for an exam, work on a group project, or write a paper.
I've definitely spent a lot of time in here.
One of my favorite places are the quiet study pods.
It's also the home to Scholarly Grounds, which is a nice place to grab a smoothie before you hit the books.
I love their smoothies. For those of you that are interested in athletics, this is our Garrett Sports Complex.
The sports complex has our O.W. Houts Gymnasium, which is the home court for our men's and women's basketball teams, as well as women's volleyball.
We also have our indoor swimming pool, where our swimming and diving teams meet.
A fun fact about that is it actually has underwater speakers.
I love those, they're so cool. We also have our field house.
That is where your Susquehanna journey both begins and ends with our convocation and graduation ceremonies. Our field house has a 1/8 of a mile track, 4 basketball courts, and batting cages. And if you're looking for a place to work out, don't worry. We have that too at our Jacobs Fitness Center. It's a 3-level fitness center that offers free weights, machines, cardio equipment, and much more. This is Kurtz Lane, named after one of the university's founders and passes through the heart of campus.
This is our main academic lane on campus, which makes finding your classes on the first day easy. You can get outside, see some friends, and meet new ones along the way.
This is also where you'll line up for graduation. You'll pass through a path of all your professors.
Let's show them some buildings.
Sure.
Lecture Hall, which is home to two very important offices on campus. The first office is our Center for Academic Success that houses our math and writing centers as well as our Office of Disability Services. Professional staff in this office assist students with the transition to college and offer many recommendations on successful study habits. The second office is the Career Development Center, which helps students prepare for professional opportunities throughout your time at Susquehanna and even beyond graduation. Here, students can receive guidance in building a resume, writing a cover letter, or landing that dream job.
This is Applebaum Hall. It houses our communications department as well as the Sigmund Weiss School of Business. Our School of Business is AA CSB accredited, and it also guarantees an international internship to all its students. Here at SU, we have 3 first-year residence halls: Reed, Passenger, and Smith.
I was a resident assistant in Smith 2 years ago.
First-year students typically live in a double-style room, which includes 2 beds, 2 dressers, 2 desks, and 2 chairs. The room also comes with individual heating and cooling units and a shared closet. Also, you're allowed to have up to 2 large appliances per room, for example, a mini fridge and a microwave. There are laundry facilities located in every first-year residence hall.
This is Degenstein Campus Center, which serves as a central hub on campus.
You can grab a bite to eat at the Hawk's Nest, meet some friends in Everett Dining Room, or you can grab a cup of coffee at Starbucks.
Which is a real lifesaver for your early morning classes.
Ain't that the truth? In addition, a variety of offices call the Degenstein Center home. We have WQSU, our on-campus radio station, the Center for Diversity and Inclusion, and the Johnson Center for Civic Engagement. On the main level, you can find the Office of Leadership and Engagement, which overlooks our Greek organizations, TRAX, our on-campus entertainment center, Charlie's Coffee House, and Student Services.
This is Weber Chapel, which hosts many events throughout the semester. Tyler, you were in Christmas Candlelight, right?
Yeah, Candlelight's a service that happens before winter break each year, where we have the choir, chorale, and chamber singers all perform. And you were in air band too last year, right?
Yeah, each Greek organization comes up with a themed dance. The money that was raised goes towards the winning fraternities and sororities philanthropies. Now this is one of my favorite buildings. The Natural Science Center is home to most sciences at SU.
This building, along with the admissions building, are both LEED certified, with lots of large windows for natural lighting. Well, that's all the time we have.
Thanks for coming on a tour with us of our beautiful campus.
We hope to see you here in the fall.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, welcome back. I hope that that tour of campus gave you a better sense of what it looks like here in Selinsgrove. I'd now like to welcome our student panel. We have 4 student panelists with us today, and I'm going to have them start off by introducing themselves.
Hi, my name is Abby Carlton. I'm a senior psychology major here at Susquehanna. I'm from Tioga, Pennsylvania, and I'm involved in Greek life on campus.
Hi, my name's Tyler Shadle. I am an upcoming junior, and I am from the small town of Tower City, Pennsylvania. I am a music and theater performance major, and I'm also involved in the a cappella group on campus.
So, hi, my name's Alec Washuta. I'm a rising senior from Shamokin, Pennsylvania. I'm a sports media major, marketing minor. Some things I'm involved with: WQSU, our on-campus radio station, obviously a student ambassador. I'm on our leadership team, so I'm actually going to be in charge of recruiting the next wave of student ambassadors. And I do have experience with athletics. I was on the football team here for 2 years, but had to step down. I had 2 back surgeries, so decided to focus more on my sports media career, and so far so good.
Hi, I'm Alex Rains. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. I'm a rising junior, and I'm a biomedical science major, and I'm also involved in Greek life on campus.
All right, thank you all for helping us out at this open house this summer. And I want to start off with a question that I'd like all 4 of you to tackle, and that is, who's been a mentor for you here at Susquehanna, and what has that relationship looked like? Abby, you want to start us off?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, my mentor definitely has to be my faculty advisor, Dr. Lovis. I've taken a lot of classes with her. She's been a great help, just kind of like walking me through my college career every step of the way. I just completed like my senior research project with her help, and we really got to know each other on a more of a personal level. She really cared about, what our end goal was, not only for our research, but also for ourselves, for our lives, what we envisioned ourselves doing. She took the extra time to really get to know us all individually, and that definitely made a huge impact on me, so she's my mentor.
Tyler, you want to go next? Yeah, go ahead,
sure
Tyler.
Thing. So I guess it's a little hard to pinpoint just one, but I guess a few of them that have been really influential to my time here so far at SU is our choir director, Dr. Amy Voorhees. She's been super helpful, both just in general work study. I've gotten to work under her as a student and just get to learn more about what goes behind running a choir, all that kind of stuff. Obviously, since that would be applicable to my future careers, and also. I've gotten to work with my academic advisor. They've been super helpful. I have both one for my theater and music major. But yeah, that's the nice thing about your network with your professors. Not only can you get so much help with your classwork, but any advice with general career or anything trying to find possible internships. I've had lots of help with that. That's been super resourceful.
Alex, you want to go next?
Yep. Oh, sure.
It looks like I'll go. But mine would have to be Dave Kashuba, my sports media advisor. Basically, he creates a lot of opportunities outside the classroom to kind of learn in different environments. So one example was we went down to visit Brian Papson, who's an SU alum, the VP of marketing for the Philadelphia Eagles. That was in my first year. We toured the NovaCare complex, got the full tour of the link, saw some players along the way too. But he basically broke down his job, how to prepare for a job in sports, and just a really nice guy. So one of the many alums I've had contact with. Also, we went out to the MLB winter meetings in San Diego this past December. Got to see all the big trades going down in the hotels. Really fun experience. Also, we're working on a baseball documentary together for my senior honors project, so that's been really fun. We went up to the Baseball Hall of Fame together, Cleveland, and it's been a really fun time, so that's something I'm looking forward to in my senior year.
All right, and Alex, finish us off here, a mentor for you.
I'd probably say Dr. Tobin, who's also my advisor for biomedical sciences. I actually was a transfer student into biomed. I came in accounting, and she made that process so easy. She made it so I wouldn't actually have to take any extra classes. She made it a very smooth transition, and it's helped me every single step of the way since becoming a biomed major. So, yeah.
All right, we had some questions when students registered about just the daily schedule of a student. So Tyler, could you just talk a little bit about what a normal day might look like for you, and then maybe contrast that if you can remember what high school was like, and what were some of those differences maybe that you learned during your first year about transitioning to college and what the schedule will look like?
Yeah, sure thing. So I think we're going to get a little bit more into extracurriculars and stuff like that later a little bit more, but for me personally, a lot of my schedule is packed with ensembles and lessons, which is obviously a little different from what I would have experienced in high school, getting to have private lessons throughout my school day, kind of interspersed with both classes in my majors as well as outside within the central curriculum. I think SU does a really good job of the scheduling of classes in comparison to your extracurricular activities, so that way it's so easy for you to get involved, obviously in your academics, which is required, but then the extracurriculars outside of that, you're able to get involved in so many things, and usually the scheduling for that shouldn't pose too many issues, which is super helpful. But yeah, I guess in terms of high school, it's a little more spaced out. You get maybe some more breaks in between certain classes. It can vary from semester to semester, but yeah, that's a little bit on that. Obviously, it looks different for every student, but that's kind of what I've experienced so far.
Alex, I wonder if you can speak a little bit to labs in particular. How do labs work for you? How do they fit into your schedule? Are you able to go into labs even when it's not your assigned lab time?
Well, yeah, if you ever do, for some reason, have to skip a lab, you just tell your lab professor, and they'll try to fit into another lab that week. Especially, like, for an example, for Chem 1, the lab the entire week is going to be the same lab for every professor. So if you are going to miss your lab time, you can just talk to them. They can get you into a different lab time. Most of the labs are at the end of the day. And so they're set up, so pretty much at the end of your day, you're going to be in your labs for probably roughly 3 hours. And usually part of it's in person, part of it's in the actual lab with the professor.
All right, I'm going to ask a bit of a two-parter question here, and this is going to be for all of you. Abby, I'd like to start with you, but why did you choose to come to SU? What's your story of how you got here?
This is my favorite story to tell. So I had visited one other college campus before coming to Susquehanna. I had already applied here, so we came on a tour. Absolutely loved the campus. It's really beautiful. The brick buildings remind me of my high school, so it kind of gave me like a homey feeling. My tour guide was amazing. And at the end of the tour, she asked us if we could go back to the admissions building. So once we went back to the admissions building, I met with a counselor, and she handed me my acceptance letter like right there on the spot, which was very unique. You always hear about like getting your acceptance letter in the mail, but my experience was a very personal one. And I decided like that day immediately. We went to the bookstore right after that. My mom and I started buying like all of our Susquehanna apparel. I knew that I had to come here, and that was just the beginning of like a very individualized experience at Susquehanna.
All right, Alec Wishuda, how about you?
So it's kind of ironic for me. I always said I wouldn't come to Susquehanna in high school because it was too close to home. I kind of wanted to get out, like 3 hours away, I don't know, maybe Florida. But really, it came down to Susquehanna and another school. And I didn't start looking at Susquehanna again until a football coach actually contacted me about playing football here. Coach Z, great guy. And basically, he goes, we like your film. You seem like a great student, great guy. We have a senior graduating kicker. We need a first year to come in, freshman come in, start. And what could we do to make you come to SU? And from there, I'm like, Coach, I haven't really seen much of the sports media part of things. Could I get in contact with somebody? And he got me in contact with Kate Hastings, who was the former dean of the communications department, and she personally texted me in class when I was in high school, and that was a really great feeling because she told me everything I needed to know, whether it was what students were doing in class, where they're getting jobs, internships, what alumni are doing in the field. So like Brian Papson with the Philadelphia Eagles, or I met Bill McCullough, who's a SU alum. He works with NFL Digital out in California. So just those connections and what she was able to relay for me, that one-on-one connection which I was looking for, just all made sense. And that's kind of what I've experienced so far in my 3 years and final year here at Susquehanna.
How about you, Alex?
Well, I'd say that what brought me to Susquehanna was how kind and caring people are here, professors and students. When I was on my tour here, this was the only campus where I was at where while I was walking around campus, people were saying, "Welcome to SU, welcome to Susquehanna," and "Go Riverhawks," like that. These are random people. I had no idea who they were. They're saying hi to me because they knew I was on a tour. Then I love telling this story. It's like the second week of school, and I'm like walking to class, and I dropped my pen. I just walked in class casually, and a student chased me down and ended up being late to their class just to give me my pen back. And I feel like that would not happen at any other college campus in this country. No way. That's a purely Susquehanna thing.
And I think Tyler.
Yeah.
Is that you're next? Okay.
I had came here for the Choral Institute. It's like a singing camp that happens over the summer. I had come here as a choral institute, or as a high schooler, to do that while I was in high school. And it was very early in my college search, so I kind of came just because I wanted to do some music stuff over the summer, get a little bit of my college search started, and I didn't have any high expectations, but I came, and after my first day I was like, dang it, I really like it. So I had to keep an open mind looking at other schools, and went out to check a bunch of other places. And I don't know, I got to work with tons of faculty and students, and none of the other campuses I visited really clicked for me to feel like home. The sense of community on campus is just like what Alex was saying, like you're going to walk by and people you don't even know are going to be smiling at you, and that's not just because you're on tour or anything like that. That's the way it is on campus. So yeah, it just kind of clicked for me, and it didn't really click for me at any other university, and it just immediately felt like home in terms of the community. But yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing those stories. Now I like to follow that up with, is there something you've done at Susquehanna that you weren't necessarily expecting to do? So when you were doing your college search and doing your visits and thinking about, oh, this is exactly what my college career is going to look like, what's something that you're doing now that you're very excited about that you didn't anticipate as a first-year student? I'm going to pick on someone. Alec.
I mean, just thinking about that question too, the whole baseball documentary thing that I mentioned wasn't really something I thought about until started getting more heavily into video production, started learning how to like storyboard, stuff like that through Professor John Foltz's class. And from there I kind of got into like HBO documentaries, like Hard Knocks, stuff like that. And there's actually a guy from my hometown, Stan Kovaleski, who's a Hall of Fame baseball player, and I thought that would be a good subject to kind of grasp onto because not a lot of people talk about him now, and I really want to kind of bring him to light. So that's kind of something that I'm doing now that I can't wait for my senior year. I'm using it as my senior honors project, which I never thought I would do, but it's going to be really cool, and I can't wait for the experience to come this fall.
Abby, you ready to go?
Yes. So when I was picking my colleges, looking at everything, I never factored Greek life into the college search. I never saw myself as someone that was being in Greek life. I kind of based that off of, you know, your stereotypical, what you see in movies, everything like that. So I got to Susquehanna. I decided not to go through recruitment my first year. And I think that was like the biggest mistake I've made here at Susquehanna. My sophomore year, I saw all of my friends who were doing Greek life, all the great things that they were doing, all of the community service. And the Greek community here at Susquehanna is truly very unique, and where we all support one another. We're all there to help each other's philanthropies, and that's what we're mainly focused around. Community service is a huge part at Susquehanna, and that definitely shows through in the Greek life community. And my organization has helped me personally grow as an individual. They've helped me grow in my career goals, working with the Girl Scouts, working with Prevent Child Abuse America. And me personally, they've helped me with the Confidence Coalition and building myself up to be a stronger individual and being more prepared for future jobs, future interviews, everything like that.
Thanks, Abby. How about you, Tyler? What's something you're up to that you weren't expecting?
Yeah, so actually, I joined the a cappella group I had mentioned earlier my first semester on campus, and my second semester I was actually fortunate enough to be able to be elected as one of the music directors. So I got into like arranging, which I hadn't really done too much of before for like music, and I had found out about this thing called the International Championship of Collegiate A Cappella, which is it's the competition that's in the movie Pitch Perfect, and we actually got to compete in that circuit this past spring. It's the whole thing where like everyone has their own microphone, there's like full out choreography, so I got to help put a lot of that together. We got 3rd out of 10 groups at Westchester. It was pretty fun. Check us out on YouTube, little shameless plug. But yeah, that's been super fun and not something I at all would have anticipated to be able to find here at Susquehanna.
None of us are above shameless plugs, that's okay. Alex, it's a story you have.
I joined a personal development club, which is something I never really thought I would do. We work with like public speaking, networking, how you should prep for a job interview, stuff like that. And I've become an exec member for the club, and it's a point where we teach people public speaking. We'll review presentations for people, get people one-on-one. We'll do a bunch of different exercises just to work on speaking in public. And we have people ranging from people that speak in public every day that are on the Senate, or people that really don't talk in class at all, really, really quiet, just trying to express themselves more and gain this better skill. And in high school, I never really thought as myself as someone who was really good at that. And like through Susquehanna and this university, it's found out to be one of my biggest strengths. And this club has become something I really start to love.
All right, thank you all. And I want to highlight that for anybody, for those who are watching, if you have questions, please be sure to type them into comments. Be happy to ask one of these panelists. I do want to get into living on campus a little bit, and if you can describe residence halls, and maybe if one of you starts with one to move into some of the other living options that we have. Abby, why don't you start us off with, just talk about what it's like to live in a residence hall here at Susquehanna.
So my first year, I lived in a first-year residence hall, and then I loved it so much, I decided to become a first-year resident assistant. So I've been living in a first-year residence hall for all 3 years. I love the sense of community that living in a residence hall brings. With my hall, I really focused on making sure we all understood that we were in a community, we're all in the same boat, we were there to help each other out, the friendships that grew out of it, not just for my residents, but for me as well, even as a resident assistant, were really long lasting. And that's where I met some of my first friends at Susquehanna, and they're still my current friends, still going strong. But it's really a great experience. I wasn't too sure about it at first. Sharing a room with someone else, I wasn't quite used to. My first year roommate ended up being amazing. We got along so well. And I'm still friends with her as well. So it was really just a great experience for me in building a sense of community and making new friends.
How about you, Tyler? Anything to build upon that residence life? What goes on?
So in my first year residence hall experience, the resident assistants, they always do such a good job of like programming different events for the residents. In my first year, they had like I think they called it like a stress less night, where they like ordered a bunch of painting canvases. There was a bunch of food in the common room, so you could just like come down, forget about your studies for a while. They have like glow in the dark, capture the flag out in Smith Lawn. So that's always just an example of some fun events that they'll be programming. And we also have like student created communities that we have available on campus, where it's like students will live around like a central theme, and they'll get to host different events throughout that theme in the school year. So like, for example, me and a few of my friends are living together this coming year, and we're doing one around mental health awareness. So we'll get to live together, but also get to host different events around that topic throughout the year. So that's one thing I'm excited to experience in the residence life area.
Alex, how about you living on campus?
Well, my first year lived in a triple with two athletes. They're both on the football team. And I honestly loved it. It got me to a point where I was meeting so many different people, because I ended up going to the gym with them. I sometimes go to their morning workouts at like 6 a.m. It just, residence life put me people I never really thought I'd ever room with. And I still talk to one of them pretty much every day, other one pretty much every week. They're both great people, and the residence life system put that together for me, so I really am appreciative for that.
All right, and Alec, anything else to add there?
No, so really just short, like I lived in Smith Hall, it was a great time. Still friends with all my hallmates till this day, so going into my senior year, we're really close. Still, we're communicating all the time, send funny Snapchats back and forth when life updates are happening, but go to concerts every summer with them. It's just a good kind of, you have your base of people that you kind of could always fall back on. You know, if you need to talk about anything, you really, it's almost like a family atmosphere. No matter where you live, you become really close with your hallmates.
All right, Alec, I'll stay with you here, and I'm wondering what's your favorite tradition? I'll ask each of you, what's your favorite tradition here at Susquehanna, whether maybe that's a campus-wide one or one within a hall or within a group of friends? Go ahead, Alec.
I'm a big fan of how they do convocation and graduation. Basically, it's held in the field house, and your very first day you get welcomed in by President Green. I wasn't in the greatest moods that day because we had football, but we went through, it was kind of like a hot August day. But anyway, you line up along Kurtz Lane, kind of proceed in, floors tarp down, chairs sit up, big stage off to the right, and President Green welcomes you in your very first day for convocation, and then 4 years later, you do the exact same thing, this time in a cap and gown. Hopefully this upcoming spring I'll be able to do that. And it's graduation, so you basically end in the same place that you start out in. So it's kind of like a full circle effect. I think that's really neat.
Abby, you want to go next?
Yeah, so one of my favorite traditions, there's a lot of them, but to pinpoint one would be air band. So in the spring semester, Each Greek organization comes up with a themed dance. Pretty much the whole campus goes. It's about like $5 to get a ticket to go in. And so each Greek organization gets up on stage, performs this dance that they've been working on the entire spring semester. Some even start at the end of fall semester. We're really dedicated to it, but it's a lot of fun. And then the money that was raised gets split between the winning fraternities and sororities philanthropies. So last year it went towards transitions for the women of PA. The fraternity won with like a Shrek theme. And then it also went towards breast cancer awareness, and the sorority won with like a Sweet Life of Zach and Cody theme. My organization got second. We had a Mamma Mia theme, so it was a lot of fun. Definitely something I look forward to.
Alex, how about you?
I'd say my favorite tradition is definitely Thanksgiving. It's pretty much a time where, well, it's Thanksgiving week, or the week before Thanksgiving, that Thursday. The school has the faculty actually serve all the students in like a formal dinner. All the students are wearing like khakis, some people are wearing suits, dress shirts, everyone's dressed very nice, and they'll serve you food. So they'll bring you stuffing, mashed potatoes, full pies if you ask them to. They'll bring pretty much whatever food you want. And last year during Thanksgiving, President Green was walking by our table, and he accidentally tripped on my chair and spilled stuffing all over me and my friends, all over our table. And it was just honestly a great experience. He brought us 2 apple pies to make us feel better, which was fine, and it was great.
Very nice. All right, Tyler, see if you can beat that story.
It's going to be a little hard, but I'll try. So for our, we usually have the candlelight service before every winter break each year, and that's usually one of my favorites because like the choir, chorale, and chamber singers all get to perform. A lot of the campus community as well as like the surrounding communities come to our Weber Chapel. It seats about like 1,500 people, so like it's like usually completely packed, tons of people. And we do the silent night with candles at the end, so usually it's like super cool to like be on stage and like look out at the entire place lit up. It's just like a cool like surreal event that I always look forward to each year. And then usually afterwards, speaking of President Green, he actually like students are able to like go to the president's house, and they have like this like big hot chocolate bar as well as like a bunch of like desserts. The a cappella group like performs Christmas carols, so that's always a super fun event that I look forward to.
All right, thanks. We had a question come in about last semester and that transition from being on campus to learning remotely. If maybe one of you could start us off with what was that transition like? How did maybe the relationships that you had built with your professors and with students help to make that go smoothly? Tyler, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure.
Stay with you, yeah.
So being a music and theater person, when I like heard we were going online, I was like obviously like a little worried because it's like at first glance, no matter what university you're at, you're going to be like a little concerned with how that's going to work. But I can comfortably say that I was like pleasantly surprised. Our professors were so good with like adapting to the new environment, and obviously it's not going to be equal to what you would get, especially when it's like live performance. At least for me personally, you're not going to get that same experience. But I feel that there wasn't a large amount that I missed. Obviously, like I said, there would have been a preference to be on campus, but the university also was just so communicative, and like as far as like refunding students for like housing and like room and board, that was a super easy process, which was very comforting. We didn't have to worry at all about that, which was super nice. But yeah, coming from a music and theater person, I was actually really happy with how it went.
Abby, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, so when we switched online, I was in the middle of my senior research. We had just created our question, we were ready to get our survey out, start collecting data, and then spring break came along, and then they said that we're staying home. So we were all a little worried about how we were going to be able to switch it all online, make sure we can still get our data, everything like that. My professor was really great with helping us, letting us know that we're all in the same boat, like we're all trying to figure it out together. She was great at being kind of like adaptable with like deadlines, everything like that. So she really worked with us, and I got more of a close-knit connection with her, and then also the people in my group. because we were talking almost every day, all day, about how to do everything. And it honestly was a really great experience. It was definitely different than what you would get if you were on campus, but I still feel like I learned another really great skill that I wasn't expecting by doing it online.
Thanks. I want to ask a question now that we actually had in our faculty panel, and that is around classroom discussions. What are those like when you get into a classroom and you're able to talk to your classmates and to your faculty members, and how have you found that differing viewpoints are handled and welcomed within a class? Alec, would you mind starting us off there?
Yeah, so I took a class called Ethics and Leadership. It's part of our communications curriculum, and that was actually taught by my advisor, Dave Kashuba. And I thought he set up the class really well, so we did a bunch of case studies. We each had a case study throughout the semester that we had to work on and then present it to the class. And basically there would be a controversial topic, and we would have to take a side and say like why we would make that decision about a magazine or some commercial, something like that. So you'd have to take a stance. You were kind of forced to. And from there, the class could kind of comment how they feel about it. And he did a really great job of kind of cultivating that conversation and keeping it going. Sometimes they would last the whole class, so you'd have to like cancel the second person's presentation till the next day, just because students would get so into it. So the small class sizes help make you feel more comfortable with talking about those tough issues that might come up during class. But I think it's nice that you could have that conversation and be productive with that.
Alex, how about you? What have you observed in the classes that you've taken?
Well, I actually have a very similar experience to Alec. Last semester I had a class called Faith and Values, which is pretty much, we talk about ethics, and we talk about ethics when it involves so many controversial topics. And just like Alec, we were all forced to take a side, and Jeffrey Mann, our professor, would take the other side, no matter what side it was, it didn't matter, and he'd always defend that side. And it was a really good way to have these conversations because, one, it was a safe place. No one was everyone knew this is for a class. No one's trying to offend anyone, stuff like that. But also, he made sure that the arguments for one side were just as strong as the arguments for the other side. And so it gave us a really nice balance where you could truly see both sides of many controversial topics.
Abby or Tyler, anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, I can add just that in my experience, a lot of my classes have been discussion based. So it's not necessarily just a lecture where you're sitting there, you're listening to the professor, you're just taking notes. The occasional time they'll ask a question and you get called on. That's definitely not the experience that I've had. And for me, it's worked a lot better to be able to have open discussions. No matter how long they go, the professor is always willing to let us continue talking about it, to bring up different aspects that you might not necessarily think about, and just being open and not necessarily projecting their views onto us, but allowing us an opportunity to open up and express ourselves. So like the discussion-based classes are a really great opportunity to start talking about that.
Thanks. Now I'm interested in a class, as being a small liberal arts university, you get the opportunity to take lots of different classes. So what is a class that each of you have taken that isn't your major, wasn't one of your previous majors perhaps, and not a minor, but something that has just kind of been out of left field, but you've really, really enjoyed it? How did you feel going into it, and how do you feel now? Alex, you want to start us off?
So I'd say the main first year writing class, writing and thinking, was not a class that personally I was not looking forward to going to it. Not at all. I didn't like writing before it, not excited. The first day of class, our professor was an assistant rugby coach, and he said we could write whatever we wanted to, no matter what it was, for any of our essays. There was no formal writing, stuff like that. And it got me thinking about writing a different way. And it honestly made my writing so much better because I've taken that approach and taken it to all my other classes, and my writing has improved drastically. Since then, I actually started working in the writing center a little bit, reviewing papers and stuff like that.
All right, thanks. Tyler, how about you? What's a class you've done that you've really enjoyed and weren't expecting that?
So this actually kind of goes with the discussion-based thing. So I had a class my second semester of my first year called, it was a literature studies class. So it was mainly like we'd read a bunch of pieces of literature and then we'd kind of just talk about them as a class and we'd analyze them through different lenses, I guess you could say to them. So they could be like historical lenses, gender-based lenses, or just like reader response criticism, all that kind of stuff. So it was very heavily discussion-based, but it was, in high school I was never much of like a reader, I guess you could say, but I had like found myself enjoying a lot of like the literature we had read, and just like the way our professor like facilitated the discussions, it was always like super fun. And just yeah, like we were saying with viewpoints, like everyone was like able to like kind of look at things from different viewpoints. It was like kind of shocking in some ways because like you would have been like, oh, I didn't think about that way, and it was just it was an eye-opening experience in terms of like literature and reading, which was kind of surprising for me.
Abby, how about you?
So my first year, I took Introduction to Theater, not at all related to my major, not even close. And I was a little concerned at first because although I do love, watching performances, everything like that, I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about taking a class about that was centered around it. I got into the class. The professor was amazing. It was a very relaxed class where we honestly just learned a lot about the history of it, how theater came to be. He had us go to several different productions, whether they were musicals, plays, different performances that the campus had brought to us. And they were things that I necessarily wouldn't have gone to if I didn't have to, but now looking at it, it was such an eye-opening experience to where I am more prone to go to a whole bunch of different things on campus just because of the couple great experiences that I had that were offered through that class.
And Alec.
Yeah, so I had a pretty unique one. So philosophy, that was really interesting. That was taught by Dr. Thomas, great guy. Really loved his class, but it was the first nice spring day of my sophomore year. And he goes, you guys all look miserable. We're going outside and having class. And everybody had a case of the Mondays, as I like to say. And basically, he took us outside on the stairs of Cyber, and we had class for an hour outside. And the term of the day was called panpsychism. And panpsychism is the idea that inanimate objects have feelings, like humans. So we talked about if rocks have feelings for an hour. We were bending down, petting the sidewalk, touching hands. If anybody was walking their dogs past us, they probably thought we were crazy. But it was a really fun experience. And after about an hour talking about if rocks had feelings, I think they do now. So I don't kick any rocks, or I watch how I walk on the sidewalk now.
I want to get back to something that Abby had mentioned just about your theater experience and theater productions and musical productions. Tyler, I'm just wondering if you could speak to not only what it's like to be a participant in that, but also in terms of the audience, who attends, how often are these events occurring on campus?
Mm-hmm. So there's different theater productions, whether it be main stage. We have 5 different productions in our main stage series that happen every year, and there's a big set of second stage productions as well that have lots of student written, directed, produced productions. It's kind of funny because you'll be going to certain theater performances and you can tell when certain students are there because you'll hear these distinct laughs and you'll be like, oh, they're here tonight. Just as a little fun thing. But aside from that, lots of the people from the community come in, and in terms of how you can attend them, all students do get a free ticket to each event that happens in the theater at the box office. So I'd say if you would decide to come here, definitely take advantage of that because our theater productions are awesome. And we also call in lots of guest artists, as Abby was saying. We also have had the Russian ballet. They performed on our Dickinson Campus Center stage. They were here my first year. And you still get the free ticket to those events as well if you're a student. So yeah, I mean, there's a good mix of both students and community members who come out to see those, if that helps answer that.
All right. Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you. And another, big thing on campus that attracts good attendance are athletics. And Alec, I wonder if you could just talk about our varsity athletics. So being a Division III school, but also intramurals, access to workout facilities, things like that.
Yeah, so we are part of the Landmark Conference. So we compete against schools like Moravian, Scranton, Juniata, just to name a few. Except for football, we play in the Centennial, so a couple different schools. But Division III, also one of the unique things about our athletics program is our weight room. We have our own strength coach, which actually puts you through your own workouts. And the facilities are beautiful here too. They're really well kept, and we take a lot of pride in our facilities. You know, being an athlete too, a former athlete, my lifestyle is kind of set up a little different than it is now. But it is nice for students because there's kind of like a 2-hour time slot between 4 and 6, kind of 7-ish, where there's no classes going on, so you don't have to worry about missing class for a practice usually. There's sometimes, depending on what sport you play, that a game might interfere, but professors really do a great job with working with students and making sure they don't fall behind academically because they're not on campus due to an athletic event. Travel sometimes gets in the way, but they do a great job kind of working with students.
Great. We've talked a lot about stuff on campus and things to do here on our beautiful campus, but what about off campus? What are some of the things that each of you enjoy doing, have taken a part in either regularly or one-offs away from our campus? Abby, why don't you start us off?
One of my favorite things off campus, I know Tyler and I have talked about it a lot, working with admissions over the summer. We always go to the Kind Cafe. They have amazing food. It's right downtown. You can walk to it. Really cute little place, coffee shop type thing. But they have amazing food. Anytime we're on a tour and they ask for food recommendations, guaranteed most of us are going to say the Kind Cafe just because it's so good there.
Yep, and I can back you up on that. I have two little kids, and you drive by the Kind Cafe, that's where they want to go. Alex, how about you? What are some things you do off campus?
I'd say probably my favorite thing is through my fraternity. We work at Ashburn's Animal Farms, which is a local farm, and we pretty much just help keep up the farm. I usually go twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, and whether we're just scooping animal poop for 2 hours or cleaning the sheds up, moving bricks for them, helping them put up a wall, stuff like that. It's always just a great time. All the workers there are so kind, so nice, and it's just, they sometimes get us pizza. They just always make it a lot of fun for us, and so.
Great, thanks. Way to take advantage of our rural setting and get out there and out on a farm and see what that's like. Tyler, how about you?
So on our strip, there's a roller rink that a lot of me and my friends will go to every now and then. They usually have like a students' night too, so that way it's like not too crowded and it's a little bit cheaper, so that's always nice to take advantage of. But yeah, it's always fun to go. Not all of us can roller skate well, some can go better than others, but it's always a fun time regardless. Some of us will joke around when it's just the students' nights and they have like the little whatever you would call it, like it's like a little like a wheeler kind of, if they can't roller skate themselves. You have like all these grown college kids who aren't too great at it, just trying to do their best, but it's a great time regardless.
We're at Alec now, I think, right?
Yeah,
Let's
so
beat the roller rink story.
Yeah, basically I've been coming to the Selinsgrove area all my life, being only half an hour away, so it was kind of like my hangout spot in high school for a lot of things. But there's the mall, there's the movie theater, there's the strip, which is kind of where the Texas Roadhouse, you got Buffalo Wild Wings, you got Target, Walmart, all that good stuff. But we do have a beautiful downtown. I love to go to Kind Cafe, like Abby said, and BJ's is a cool spot. You got the Selinsgrove Brewery, just great places to eat, relax with friends. And also I love having the river close by too. You could take a nice run to the river or walk if you want to. But it's nice to just relax, kind of consume nature. So I like going down there to kind of just relax.
All right, so most of the people who are watching us right now are in high school and thinking about applying to college. If you could tell your high school senior self something about the college search process to have made that easier for yourself, what would you share? What would you tell yourself? Abby, you got something that you would time travel to tell yourself to make that whole process go a little bit more smooth?
Yeah, so I started off my college search and I really had no idea what I was looking for. So I was looking at so many schools in Pennsylvania. I had no idea how to narrow my search down, anything like that. If I could go back and kind of give myself a little bit of information to help narrow my search down, it would be about how far away from home I wanted to be. So I'm about an hour and 45 minutes away from home, and that ended up being the perfect distance for me, just because I can go home if I want to. My family can come here and visit if they want to, but it's also far enough away from home to where I am becoming more independent. I'm living my own life. I've gotten a different perspective from growing up in my hometown my entire life to coming here to Selinsgrove and learning a lot of new different things. So I think that definitely would have helped at the beginning of my college search, knowing that I didn't want to be more than like 2 hours away from home.
Great. How about you, Alex?
I might say the one piece of advice I'd give to not just myself but anyone is go where it makes you happy. I've had many of my friends from high school that went to like very elite universities and like that, and they just weren't happy there at all. Almost like I know 4 of them that all ended up transferring. And I went to the place that made me happy, and it's honestly made me. I've loved my time here so far at Susquehanna. I'm so excited for my next 2 years.
Great advice. Alec, how about you?
Yeah, so I don't think I would really change anything. I was pretty proactive about the whole search experience. But just talk to as many people as you can. Just get all that information. So when it comes time to make a decision down the road, have all the information on the table. You can look at it, compare schools, and make the decision that's right for you. Because the next 4 years will impact the next 40 years of your life. So that's what I like to say on tour. But yeah, just talk to as many people as possible and get all that info.
Tyler, you're up.
I'd say just don't be afraid to, like, this kind of goes along with what Alec was saying, just don't be afraid to reach out to people, because even if you don't have like a specific question, like for example, I could have like emailed our choir director and been like, can you just give me like any info about the program, because at that point you might learn something you don't already know. Because usually, at least from what I've experienced here, people are so helpful with anything you could possibly need help with as a prospective student. And like I was able to like schedule a lesson, all that kind of stuff before coming here. And also like don't be afraid. I know like application fees and stuff like that can vary from school to school, but like don't be afraid of a school's ticket price, because certain schools can have high ticket prices, but they will give out different amounts of financial aid and scholarships, and it just never hurts to do those applications, because I mean, when you think about it in the long run in terms of student debt, I mean, it's probably going to be minute in comparison to that, if that makes any sense. But yeah, just don't be afraid of any high ticket prices, because really it can make a difference.
Yeah, great advice. And the application to Susquehanna is free, so that won't cost you anything. I want to end here with a related, a similar type of question, and that is, what advice would you have to those that as they start their college journey, when they would arrive as first-year students? What's something that you learned? What's a lesson that you would tell yourself, your first-year self here, whether that's time management, making sure you sleep enough but not too much, whatever it is? What kind of advice would you give to yourself? Abby, you start us off.
Some advice I would give. I would say be as open as possible. I kind of think that I came from a very sheltered life, and then I came to college and I really was able to open up. I was able to listen to everybody who came from different areas and had different views. So I was able to kind of grow as a person that way. I joined things I never thought I'd be joining. I was taking classes that I never thought I'd be taking. And just taking that first step and being open to any opportunity and saying yes to whatever I felt most comfortable doing really helped me to grow as an individual.
Alec, how about you?
So I have two things. One, like, try new things. If you would have told me I'd be a college tour guide, you would have said, no way, hates talking to people, hates interacting, stuff like that. But the student ambassador position really put me in a position to learn how to, with public speaking, just interacting with people, keeping a positive atmosphere, being in a leadership position. So that's been really fun to kind of see my growth over time too. When I first came into the program, I'm not the same person as when I first came into the program, so really cool. And the other thing, to kind of contrast trying new things, don't try too much, because when you have too much on your plate, you can get really stressed out easily. When I first quit football, I was like, oh my God, I have so much time to work with now because I'm not, at lift, I'm not at practice, I'm not at film, I'm not eating, I don't know, but don't stack too much on your plate, because if you're a yes man, too many yeses will, just destroy you. And but you got to learn how to say no to some things, but don't stack too much on your plate. You could always try things and then quit them if they get to be too much. But yeah, just do something you never would have thought about doing. It could prove to be something really beneficial.
Alex.
I'd say probably the number one advice I was given from friends and family, and probably the advice I'd give now, is don't be afraid to just take a breath and enjoy your time. You're only in college for 4 years. It goes by really fast. I can't believe I'm already a junior. I'm already over the hump on the way down the hill. And I wish I could have more time of it. So just don't be afraid just to enjoy your time in college.
And Tyler?
I kind of have two things to go with what Alec was saying. Yeah, just don't be aware of putting too much on your plate right away. That was something that I've learned to kind of manage throughout my years here, and I'm still kind of learning to manage. But aside from that, also just don't be too afraid to meet new people, because during orientation, for example, I don't think there's going to be many people who in their head are thinking, oh, I hope they don't come up to me and say hi. You know what I mean? Everyone's in the same boat. So don't be afraid to just reach out, make connections, because yeah, that's just such a nice part of the community here, is it's so easy to meet new people, and everyone here is great, so don't let that stop you from making new friends or anything like that.
Well, we've reached the point now where we will conclude our student panel. I want to thank Alex, Alec, Abby, and Tyler for joining us today. We're going to take another break and show another video. Our final session of this afternoon will be an admission and financial aid presentation, which will be led by my colleague. It will be following this brief video, so when we come back, you will see the two of them here to answer your questions about applying to Susquehanna and applying for scholarships and financial aid. We'll see you soon.
One of my favorite classes that I've taken on campus so far as a first year actually was Perspectives. Perspectives is a class that all first years will take their first semester on campus. And I enjoyed this class because it got me acclimated to Susquehanna and it bonded a lot of students.
My two favorite classes at Susquehanna have been my Sports Promotions and Relations class and my Sports Journalism class. These classes are at 8:45 in the morning, and I am not a morning person at all, but the professor, Dr. Kashuba, really made it an engaging class, and I never struggled to get out of bed for this class.
One of my favorite classes that I've taken at Susquehanna was ear training, which is a music course. And it's basically all about oral skills, so about how to be a good listener as a musician, how to sight sing, how to take down dictations. If you hear music, can you write it down?
My favorite course that I've taken at Susquehanna is the Adulthood and Aging class with the psychology department. This is my favorite because we had the opportunity to create families, make-believe families, and kind of examine what challenges members of the family, of different ages, go through, and the daily experiences, as well as we had the opportunity to be placed in a senior home or a senior center. And I got placed in the Selinsgrove Senior Center, and I had the opportunity to interact with senior citizens on a weekly basis.
My favorite class so far at Susquehanna has been Math Methods for Preschool, which is a education which is basically just how to teach math to little kids, and it's my favorite because this was the first methods class I've had, so it was the first one that's kind of taught me how to be a teacher.
One of my favorite classes at Susquehanna so far is definitely my performance poetry class taught by Monica Prince. I didn't really consider myself a poet until I came to Susquehanna, and I went to my first open mic and I fell in love with performing poetry in front of people. So when I found out that there was a class focused on that, I was thrilled because poetry has been a great impact on me and has given me so much confidence and helped me find my voice, and I wanted to strengthen that during class as well. So by performing in front of my peers and getting feedback, I am becoming a better poet because of it.
One of my favorite classes I've taken at Susquehanna so far is actually one of my literature studies classes I took last year. We had a professor that just inspired such original and creative thinking in our discussions, and we got to read some really cool books and stories, and it was just an overall really great experience, and that's coming from someone who honestly isn't too much of a reader myself.
It was called Non-Western Art, so it talked about the survey of art outside the context of, you know, what art history really entails, and when you have an introductory course. So Europe, everything that happened in Europe, and then what, you know, was left over and influenced the United States.
My favorite classes that I've had at Susquehanna is a class that's called conditioning, and in that class you get to learn about how your body physically moves and how to move through life most efficiently with your. And then for the final we went to the top of this hill during a sunny day, and we did our final on the hill outside with some music, and I thought that was awesome.
Something that has surprised me about my time at Susquehanna is just how willing the faculty and staff is to really help you out and sit with you one-on-one to make sure you understand the material. Everyone really wants to make sure you succeed.
One thing that definitely surprised me the most about my time so far here at Susquehanna is the amount of growth that I have experienced. Coming into college, I wasn't sure what to expect as a first-generation student, but I must say that, you know, from all the opportunities that have been given to me, all the time working with my peers and faculty, professors, everything like that, it's really helped mold me into the person I am today.
Something that surprised me about Susquehanna was how close I got with my professors. I didn't really realize how great of a relationship I would make with them, but I could literally have the most completely casual conversation with them about their dog or their family, and they truly value the connections and relationships that they have with their students.
What surprised me most about my time at Susquehanna is how quickly I made friends and how close we still are today. That was something I was really nervous about, but I made amazing friends, and they are the most supportive and helpful people I've ever met, and I couldn't imagine my time here without them.
What surprised me most about my time at Susquehanna is definitely how involved I have gotten. There are so many opportunities to get involved at different clubs and organizations, Greek life, different service opportunities as well. There is an opportunity and a place for everyone to get involved on campus.
What has surprised me most about my time at Susquehanna is just the environment and who I've become through it. In high school I was really shy. I didn't have a lot of friends. I've mostly just kept to myself, and here at Susquehanna I've really been able to blossom. I've joined a lot of different clubs. I speak in class now, which is something that I would have never done. So it just really surprised me how Susquehanna has pushed me.
I never thought that I would be playing rugby. You know, I've played lacrosse, you know, a majority of my life. I thought if anything I would play lacrosse at college, and you know, I just turned out to get a lot of friends in my first year hallway who were on the rugby team. They told me to come out for it, and it's been one of the best decisions I've ever made.
As a first year, I haven't been on campus very long, but what has surprised me the most about my time at Susquehanna is how willing to help the faculty, professors, and staff are, and how caring everyone is. Unfortunately, during my first semester, I had to deal with a very serious family medical emergency at home, and because of this, I had to miss school days and I lacked time for work. But fortunately, my professors worked with me to figure out a plan to finish all my work, and they were so caring and checked in on me.
When I was in high school, I was always afraid to call and order food over the phone. I don't know why, this is something I was really scared to do, but obviously I'm a tour guide now, I'm a student ambassador, I love talking to people. They really pushed me out of my comfort zone, but in the best way possible. I got really involved at Susquehanna, and that's not something I thought I would do. So no one even forced me to do it. It was just the atmosphere. It's you're around so many people that are leaders themselves. It's kind of just it's what you become, it's what you do.
What surprised me the most about my time at Susquehanna is the unique network opportunities that I have been able to get, because through going to Breakthrough for the past 2 years, I've been able to develop relationships with alumni and other professionals outside the university.
When I first came to Susquehanna, I had no interest in joining Greek life, but it is completely different than what you see in the movies or with the stereotypes. Susquehanna's Greek life is really focused on leadership, scholarship, service, and really bettering each other and the world around us. I can completely say I'm not the same person I was 4 years ago, and I owe a lot of that to Kappa Delta and the other fraternity and sorority organizations on campus. We really all support each other and want to help with our philanthropies and kind of improving each other as a whole.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back, and my name is Ruben Council. I serve as the Senior Associate Director of Transfer and International Admission here at Susquehanna. I'm excited to spend some time with you this afternoon, and we're going to talk through the entire application process in great detail. We'll talk about the different ways that you can apply to Susquehanna, and we'll talk about some deadlines and then some information about scholarships and such. And at that point, I will be able to turn things over to my colleague Brent Walsh, who will introduce himself just a little bit later. So let's start out with the application itself, because this is a pretty detailed document that you're going to be putting together for whichever colleges and universities you end up applying to. And there's a lot of different pieces that come together so that we as admission counselors can have a really holistic view of you as a student as we're putting together our decisions and making our best process for how to build this class that we're bringing in each fall. So just to let you know, probably the most important aspect of your application will be the high school transcript that you present. So those of you that are maybe going to be juniors this year, this is an important year. So really do try to get the best grades that you can in the most advanced courses that you're comfortable taking, because this is the stage of the game where everyone's been telling you all along how important it is to get good grades and do your very best in your classes. And at this point, you finally get to see why that is so important. Because as you come out the other side of this process, you will be rewarded for the quality of your grades in the form of merit-based scholarships. We'll spend a good bit of time talking about that in just a little bit. So high school transcript will be important. The next component will be SAT or ACT scores. Now, we are in a special time, and we understand that because many of you, particularly that are seniors, have not had the chance to sit this test. And in fact, SAT just canceled its August 29th test as well. So chances are good that you may end up applying to college without test scores. And just know that Susquehanna is prepared for that, because we have been test score optional for over 20 years. So we are well versed in how to do a full and thorough review of each student without having access to those test scores. Now, if you are someone who was able to take a test earlier on in your high school career, or does choose to take it later in the fall when those tests become available, we can still receive those scores and use them as part of your application review if you would like us to. So, next component is your essay. And the essay is something that we would like you to spend a good deal of time on. This is your only chance to have your voice come through in this document that you're presenting to these admission professionals. So do take the time to really do a thorough review of your essay. Make sure it's something that you're comfortable telling us about. Make sure it's something that just portrays you as an individual and gives us sort of a vivid view into a part of your life that's meaningful, that you feel adds value to the process of admission. Now, we will also take a look at letters of recommendation. We only require one letter at Susquehanna. However, you are welcome to provide as many as you would like. So the first letter needs to be from a teacher or a school counselor, so that we can get a good sense of someone who is familiar with your quality of academic work.
And then you can round out those letters with perhaps a coach, perhaps another teacher from another subject area, perhaps a community leader that you've worked closely with, so that we can have a firm understanding of you as an individual again. Now, we also will have a lot of information about you that you'll input as far as the leadership and extracurricular activities that you have also taken part of during your high school careers. So this is a chance for you to detail any leadership positions you might have had with different clubs and organizations. Were you a section leader in band? Were you a captain for your school athletics team? And this will be a chance for you to really fill in those details for us as well. We will also take a look at any information that we have on record as far as you visiting our campus and perhaps even sitting for an interview. So interviews are not required, but we do recommend them at Susquehanna because, again, it's a chance for us to have a conversation directly with you, get to know what your specific areas of interest are, get to really figure out how you would be a best fit for some of the programs that we offer. So do consider that as we start to open back up this fall and through the next academic year. All right, sorry, we're going to hit pause for just a sec because I hear that we're having a microphone problem. So if you'll bear with me for just a minute, I will stop talking about important things and just sort of keep this rolling while someone comes and swaps a mic with me. What do you think? All right, awesome. So I was just talking a little bit about interviews and how they're not required but encouraged. So if you are able to join us on campus at some point this year, we would be very happy to meet with you and get to know how our programs might work better for you as you are looking at what your college search entails. Now, one other piece that we'd like to make you aware of is that we do also have an honors program at Susquehanna. So in order to be eligible for honors, just to give you some benchmarks, this is something where you are automatically invited after you've been admitted to the university. So first you would do your regular application process, and then if you were someone that is identified as honors eligible during that process, then later in the cycle you would be made aware of that. So if you are at a 3.9 unweighted GPA, if you are able to present us with test scores that are at 1,300 or higher for SAT and 29 or higher for ACT, you're likely to get that invitation. We also have a process for reviewing test score optional applicants as well. So that does not exempt you from the potential to be part of the honors program either. And along the way, if you feel like the honors program is something that you would be a good match for and that program should be available to you, you are also welcome to reach out to your admission counselor and have your file reviewed individually if you don't get the automatic consideration. All right, so that's a little bit about the application itself. Let's shift our gears and talk a little bit more about the types of applications that you can take part in, and also application deadlines that we have at Susquehanna. So there's basically 3 ways to apply to most colleges, and this is certainly available at the university at Susquehanna as well. So the first application process that we offer is called early decision. Now, early decision, I like to say, is kind of like a marriage proposal. So if you're coming through your college search process and there's one school that sort of stands far and above all the rest as far as this is the place you've got to go, this is exactly the school for me, and I don't want to go anywhere else, consider an early decision application. But like a marriage proposal, if you ask someone to marry you and they say yes, you're pretty much getting married. And same thing with early decision. If you apply early decision to a school, then you do get some preferential treatment in the review process, but you will be admitted early and you will have to make your decision by January. Now, the perks of that are that you have your decision made, your process is done, and you're firm in your convictions, and you can move forward with your senior year with confidence and knowing that you've gotten into exactly the place that you want to go. However, like with the marriage proposal, if you go out and you ask several people to marry you, when they all find out, they're all going to dump you. So you have to be very serious about an early decision, because that is a handshake agreement with the school that you apply to. Now, the way the vast majority of students at Susquehanna will apply is using our early action process. And my best advice to you as students is that if a school offers early action, take advantage of it, because all of the advantages are yours. So at Susquehanna, if you apply early action, then when your application is complete, meaning that we've received the application itself, plus all of the supporting materials that we talked about a little bit earlier, then we will render a decision for you very quickly, typically within 3 weeks. And at that point, we will be able to tell you your admission decision, and then assuming a positive outcome, we'll also be able to tell you what you qualify for in merit-based scholarship awards. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, because that's a very important piece. So, and then with early action, what's nice is that you're not required to make your final decision. You can take as long as you want, right up until May 1st. So there's still time to come visit campus. There's still time to connect with faculty. There's still time to meet some of our current students and have those good conversations about how Susquehanna can be your very best fit. We also offer a regular decision application with a deadline in March. And the thing about waiting for regular decision is that it's still available to you, but you might not want to wait, because you've got these great opportunities to have information earlier with early action. And if we've got a great pipeline of folks from our early decision and early action rounds, we might decide to get a little pickier with our folks that are coming in regular decision. So those are the 3 different options as far as decision plans that you have available to you. And just know that we have deadlines of November 15th for our early decision population, a deadline of November 1st and December 1st for our 2 rounds of early action applications, and then March 15th is going to be our regular decision deadline. And now, for probably the most exciting part of this whole conversation that we're having, let's talk a little bit about scholarships. Because at Susquehanna, we are very competitive with the awards that we offer. So everyone who applies to us, regardless of decision plan, is automatically under consideration for merit-based scholarships. And just to give you an idea, this past year, our awards ranged up to $38,000 for our strongest applicants. But just know, even if you're not at the very top of our scale, our average award was still well into the 30s. So folks are going to qualify for significant help. Now, one of the strengths of this scholarship is that regardless of your family's income, this award will be the same. And it's renewable for each of the 4 years that you're on campus, so long as you're earning enough credits to matriculate to your next class. So your first year, you have to pass enough courses to become a sophomore, and then to become a junior, and then to become a senior. So we don't want to be in the business of taking these scholarships away, because we know that they were a huge part of why you decided to join us in the first place. So as long as you're doing your job in the academic realm, you'll be able to renew these awards for each of your 4 years. Now, we do have some additional scholarships to consider as well. If you happen to be a musician, then that's a great way to potentially earn some extra dollars towards your attendance at Susquehanna. So if you're a music major, as part of your audition process, you'll be automatically considered for those music scholarships. But even if you're not a music major, but you've still played violin or trumpet or bassoon, then we would be happy to have you also audition for a non-major performance grant scholarship. So that can be some extra dollars on your scholarship award, and the requirement would be that you perform in one of our ensembles and take a weekly 30-minute private lesson, which are probably things that you would be interested in doing anyway. We also have a creative writing program, which is very highly regarded. In order to become part of that creative writing program, there's a portfolio review process in addition to the general admission requirements. So as part of that portfolio review process, the faculty are also identifying a selection of students that would qualify for creative writing scholarships. And those would be in addition to what you've already earned in merit-based aid. We also have a very involved program for folks that are interested in community service. It's called our Susquehanna University Service Leaders Program. So if you are someone that's interested in directly engaging with the community, this is a significant scholarship with the requirement that you are paired with a community organization in the surrounding area of Selinsgrove. And you spend a good amount of time every week that you're here interacting with that organization and taking on progressive levels of responsibility over each of the 4 years that you're on campus. So that's a little bit about the merit-based awards that we offer, and that's a perfect transition, I think, for me to turn things over to my colleague, Brent Wallish, who's going to talk to you a little bit more about how financial aid progresses after you've been admitted and received your merit-based awards.
Thanks very much, Ruben. And thanks for attending. And as Ruben had said, my name is Brent Wallish. I'm an Assistant Director of Student Financial Services here at Susquehanna. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the next steps in the financial aid process and answer some questions that we really are getting from a lot of students who are, in the college search, looking around and weighing a lot of different options. Now, I work in the Student Financial Services office, and there's a lot of different things that we do in our office, and so I'm going to let you know a little bit about what we do in Student Financial Services. So we have two primary functions at Susquehanna University. The first is that we handle the billing and payments at the institution. So students who are billed for things like tuition, fees, room, board, and everything down to things like parking passes on campus. They are billed through our office onto student accounts. Consequently, we also handle the payments on those accounts as well. So if students want to make a payment on their account or on a charge, that'll work through our office as well, through our student account center. We are the staff involved that deals with that. The other primary function, and the one I'm really going to speak to today, is about financial aid. So Student Financial Services is also the office that is involved with helping students through financial aid application processes, processing those actual applications, and administering the financial aid that students may be eligible to receive at the institution. And we work with students every year for all 4 years that they're here throughout all of these processes. So Student Financial Services is really a combination between the billing office and financial aid. And so that kind of leads to the next question that I get a lot at this time of the year is, all right, so what is financial aid? Financial aid is kind of a broad term that I'm going to define a little bit right now and go over some of the key points or some key examples as to what financial aid is. So broadly, financial aid is anything used to help pay for college. Most commonly, I think when people hear the term financial aid, they think of need-based gift aid. These would be funds that are free funds applied to your account to help assist with financing your college education and that college investment. Many times these come from outside sources and you have to apply for that and show demonstrated need. I'm going to go over what demonstrated need is in just a minute here, but these would be known as need-based. So you do have to apply for and qualify for these funds. Most popularly, or some of the larger programs out there would be from federal sources. This would be things like the federal Pell Grant, the SEOG grant, perhaps even the Teach grant. For Pennsylvania residents, you may qualify for a state grant through FIA. And also Susquehanna University, in addition to the merit-based scholarships that Ruben had mentioned earlier, you may qualify for need-based financial aid in addition to your merit-based financial aid at Susquehanna as well. Now, on the other side of this is, scholarships are also a part of financial aid, but you don't have to necessarily qualify through a financial aid application to receive those. So as you had heard before, applying for admission, you will be eligible to receive and be looked at for merit-based scholarships. These are based upon your admission application and your qualifications for that, or other talent-based scholarships that we had heard about as well. These would all be based upon your merits and not necessarily need. Other merit-based forms of aid and scholarships can also come in the form from local community organizations or your high school, any clubs or organizations that you're a part of, community organizations or community service organizations that you work with. I always recommend students right now, whether you're a rising senior or a rising junior, it never hurts to start your scholarship search early. And always start small. Check with your high school. Check with any organizations that you're affiliated with or know about, and then start bigger. Because there's a lot of different opportunities out there and many different deadlines, so it's good to start and get organized right now. Some popular websites for some of those searches could be things like FastWeb, scholarships.com. The College Board has a great one, but we provide some links on our website, and we'll be sending some out as well in the coming days as following up from this regarding outside scholarships. But we certainly recommend applying as soon as possible and as you can for those. So in addition to the free monies, the ones that you would get that you don't need to be paid back or that aren't necessarily your responsibility for paying for, would be self-help forms of financial aid. And we refer to these as self-help because this is essentially money that you are putting towards your college investment, whether you would be paying it out of pocket or you would be paying it back at a later time. So first we list federal work study. This is an opportunity for students who apply for financial aid and have some demonstrated need and qualify for work-study funds. Work-study is a great opportunity to work part-time while you are in school, to earn some money to help you with either out-of-pocket expenses, or some students even do to put it towards their student account. These monies are paid directly to the student, and it is up to them what they do with it. So it's very much like a part-time job, but it is funded through some federal opportunities that students do have to qualify for. Now, another form of self-help aid that I think everybody has heard about at some point would be loans. So student loans are paid directly to the to the institution, so to Susquehanna, for example, and students will have to pay these back over time, either after they graduate or according to the terms of their loan. Many times these loans need to be paid back with interest, so it's a form of way to finance your education while you are enrolled. Now, there are different sources and different types of these funds. So in order from federal sources, most commonly is the federal direct student loans. So these would be known commonly as Stafford, subsidized, unsubsidized loans. To be eligible for these, you just have to file your FAFSA and be a student in school and be a full-time student. You will be eligible to receive some federal direct student loans. Depending upon which kind they would be, it depends upon the results of your financial aid application. From federal sources, parents are also able to borrow student loans if they wish via the Parent Plus loan. I want to make sure that I emphasize the word parent, as these are parents' loans and in the parent's name, but they are paid to their student to their student's account to finance their student's education. And finally, there are also private student loan options out there. So while some of them are funded through the federal government, the Department of Education, private student loans would be funded through things like banks, credit unions, and there are also some state institutions that offer student loans as well. Commonly, we work with a lot of students who go through the states of New Jersey or Pennsylvania's programs for student loans as well, in addition to private or federal sources. And these are all just options that you can look up. I can speak all day about student loans, and I would welcome questions at some point about them, but I can't get into all of the details on them right now. But there's a lot of great resources out there to do your research and find out if you will be borrowing for your college years, what products are going to be best for you in terms of repayment and other financial tools. And then finally, while maybe not necessarily something that people think of when it comes to financial aid, other things that are used to help fund a student's education could be things like a payment plan option. Susquehanna is one of many schools that offer the ability to break up payments for a semester's tuition and fees and room and board and things like that. Over the course of several months during that semester rather than just at one specific due date. Also, many families save and use through 529 accounts or educational savings plans and things like that. And of course, we would be willing to work with financial institutions on those. My recommendation to students, whether they are rising seniors or rising juniors for this, is to make sure you're in touch with your financial institution and make sure you know what they will need prior to using any of these funds, and if there are any kind of terms and and conditions with your college savings plan. Also, I know at Susquehanna University, we also have a lot of students here that can utilize veterans benefits. I am a VA certifying official on campus. We are a yellow ribbon school, and veterans benefits, if you watching this are a veteran or are the dependent of a veteran and may have some education benefits, that's a wonderful way to help finance a college education as well. And if you have questions about those, they can be very specific, and we certainly welcome the opportunity to work with you one-on-one to answer any questions you may have around those. And then finally, as I had said before, when talking about scholarships, it also helps to check with either your or a parent's employer to see if there may be any education benefits eligible to your family. Many students and parents have some benefit of their employer that can help them finance the college education as well, and it's certainly worth looking into through that. So through all of those things, the question is, okay, so how do I find out which of these options is going to work for me? How do I know what I'm going to qualify for? And you will have to file an application to be qualified and eligible for financial aid. And I've actually included a small video that we're going to watch here in just a second about the financial aid process. It's through the Department of Education, and with federal student aid, they have a lot of really helpful videos that you can watch to help get you just acquainted with that process of the financial aid process, the FAFSA, but this is a good introductory video that may answer some of those questions, any questions that came in with what I went over.
If you're interested in financial aid for college or career school, you're going to need to fill out the free application for Federal Student Aid, or FAFSA. It takes most people about 30 minutes to complete online, and the best part, it's 100% free, and it provides you with access to grants, loans, and work-study funds from the federal government. And many colleges and states use FAFSA information to provide their own college or state financial aid. Before you fill out the FAFSA, it's a good idea to create your FSA ID, a username and password that lets you electronically sign your FAFSA and gives you access to various websites related to federal student aid. And here's an important tip. If your parent is providing information on your FAFSA, he or she will need his or her own FSA ID. Visit studentaid.gov/FSA ID for more information. Your FAFSA can be completed online at fafsa.gov, and help is provided throughout the online application process. You will need to fill out the FAFSA each year you are in school because your financial situation may change. Plus, you may be able to automatically transfer your tax data from the IRS, making the application even quicker to fill out. Each state and college or career school sets its own deadline for the FAFSA, so it's best to get it done early. Since some of the funds are available on a first-come, first-served basis, you don't want to miss out. Now that you know about the FAFSA, you might be asking, well, how much money will I get? Your college or career school will do the math, and there's a simple formula that they use. First, the college takes your cost of attendance, which is the total amount it will cost you to go to that school. Your cost of attendance will vary from school to school. Then, the college subtracts your expected family contribution, or EFC. Your EFC is based on information provided in your FAFSA and will not change based on the school you attend. However, the EFC is not necessarily the amount of money you will have to pay. Basically, your cost of attendance minus your EFC equals your financial need. Your college uses your financial need and other information to determine how much financial aid you can receive. See? Pretty simple. If you have questions or need more information, please visit studentaid.gov.
So I hope that was some good information, just real basic 101 stuff on filing your FAFSA and how the financial aid application works a little bit, not only for Susquehanna University, but for any school you may be applying to here in the coming months and years. Now, some information that maybe didn't get addressed in that is equally important and that I just wanted to make sure we went over is, sort of some timelines and expectations as to what's going to happen when you file that application for financial aid. First, I always want students to know, while there's nothing they can really do right at this point in terms of applying for financial aid, you actually can go to the federal website and access your FSA ID and password. These are available to you now that you can get for the next academic year. A student and a parent will need it to file and sign their FAFSAs, make sure you write this information down because you're going to need it every year for 4 years, and many students may even need it after they graduate from their undergraduate program, whether it's to help manage student loans or when applying for a graduate program and they wish to file for financial aid for that too. So make sure you save your FSA ID and passwords, as they will be used quite frequently. Some other things to know about is you can start applying for financial aid. So for those of you who are rising seniors and will be applying to schools this summer and fall, you can start applying for financial aid by filing your FAFSA as early as October 1st this year for the 2021-2022 academic year. And it is going to open up October 1st every single year. It will use tax data and information from 2019. So some of my best advice that I can give to you right now is to, when you go to file your FAFSA, make sure you have your FSA ID and password written down and in front of you. You're able to log in, and you have somewhere easy access to financial information from 2019. The FAFSA is going to go off of tax data and income information from 2 years prior to the year in which you'll be enrolling in school. So if you're going to school in 2021, you will need 2019 tax information to verify your FAFSA. You will need to apply every year that you're in school, and it's a good thing to do. I have a question a lot from students and families. If if on the chance you don't receive financial aid from filing your FAFSA, should I do it every single year? My answer is always yes. And the reason for that being is many things can change from one year to the next, and eligibilities can change. A family's income can fluctuate, need can change based on many different factors, and applying for financial aid can really help not only in different qualifications from year to year, but should something happen in 2 or 3 years, we would actually have documentation to go back on to see what kind of changes have been made to your circumstances, and it's always helpful. So making sure you apply every single year is important. Also, it only makes you eligible for certain programs, like the federal student loans and things like that. You have to file a FAFSA in order to be eligible for it. We do have a college affordability checklist on our website that you can check out. It's really helpful there, and there's a lot of good, just helpful links and places to go and things to be keeping in mind when filing your FAFSA and filling out that financial aid application. So once you file your FAFSA and you apply for financial aid, then what that does is that makes us start putting together your financial aid award letter. And this is what you will be receiving. The financial aid award letter will come to you, and it will outline just about everything you need to know in terms of how much it is going to cost for a year's education at Susquehanna University. We include all of the direct costs as well as indirect costs, and direct costs being things that we actually charge for, and we also outline indirect costs that we estimate for you. That would be things like out-of-pocket expenses, books, things like that. We also will include all financial aid for which you may be eligible. So we will see if you're eligible for federal sources, state sources, if you're eligible for any additional financial aid from the institution. All of these things will be included on your very first financial aid package. And we will also break down not only the total things that you're eligible for, but what it means in relation to those costs that would be billed for a year, and we will come up with, it'll be called the estimated net cost. And that is what you could expect to pay for a year at Susquehanna University. Will be included on your very first financial aid award letter. If you're interested in that information, we do also have a net price calculator online that you can use. I always just want students to know, though, if you're going to do that anytime soon, please know that that is based upon if you were going to be enrolling in the current academic year. It is not based off of next year's information, but it can give you a little bit of an idea of what financial aid you may have qualified for had you been enrolling in school this year. So how do you get your financial aid award letter? Well, it's a two-step process. The first step is you have to be admitted to Susquehanna University. And the second step is you have to file your FAFSA and make sure you include Susquehanna when filing that FAFSA. That number that you see on the PowerPoint and on the slide there, that is our ID. So when you go to submit your FAFSA to different schools, that number will make sure that your information gets to Susquehanna. You can apply and file your FAFSA at any time. So if you don't submit your admission application before October 1st, but you're ready to get the FAFSA submitted, that's totally fine. You can do that, but you won't get a financial aid award letter until you know whether or not you are going to be admitted to the institution, because we also, I'm sure you would like to have your scholarship included whenever you get the financial aid award letter. So once you're both admitted and we have your FAFSA, then we can send a financial aid award to you. As far as timelines go, we will most likely begin sending our financial aid award letters starting mid-November of this year. That is what we are planning on, and we send them out on a rolling basis thereafter. So if you send us your information early, you may hear back in November. If you are in one of the later schedules in terms of regular decision application for admission and you don't file your FAFSA until January or February, you can still expect to hear back from us maybe within a week or two in terms of your financial aid award letter. And then that's the timeline for that. And as Ruben had said, your decision timeline, the time to make your decision will be in May 1st. And after that point, then we will start introducing you to the other half of our office when talking about bills, payments, and other options that happen here. But we always welcome questions. I always tell students there are no bad questions when it comes to financial aid, especially for someone going through this process for the first time. It can be very confusing, and we're more than willing to help out in any way possible. So, shoot us an email, give us a call. We are always available to help you with these things. I've listed the SFS website on there as well, but I also put on the U.S. Department of Education and the state's websites as well if you wish to find out more information on their programs and qualifications for their financial aid resources as well. So thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you all.
All right, everybody. It has been great to spend some time with you this afternoon. Thank you so much for tuning in. And just a couple thank yous for some folks that you didn't get to meet. We'd love to just give a huge shout out to our folks in our communications department here at Susquehanna. They've been just instrumental in helping us put this together in a really professional sort of way. And some thank yous to some of my colleagues who have been personing the chat feature as well. I know that you as an audience have been keeping them very busy all afternoon with questions. So good for you and good for them for being able to keep up with everything. So before we go, I would like to just put a quick plug out there to let you know that Susquehanna University is indeed open for visitors. We've got some wonderful protocols in place to keep everybody safe and socially distant, but we are able to host a number of families each day. So if you like what you've seen here online, we would welcome you to sign up on our website for a visit. Just go to www.susqu.edu and click on Admission and Aid. There's a visit button underneath that can take you to all of the different options available to you. So again, we really appreciate you taking an afternoon to be with us, and feel free to reach out anytime if you have additional questions about any aspect of Susquehanna University or our admission process. It was great to be with you today, and we look forward to hopefully seeing you in person on campus soon.